Welcome to the Grandmaster Level Show. Today, we've got a special guest of honor who flew directly to Vancouver Island. We've got Sink Angel, Matthew Gates. Did I say that right?
Yeah, you
Sorry.
said that right.
Oh, man, I'm the worst at saying it. And we've got BC Bubble Man, Spartan Grown, Preston Bajorson, and Charlene Paul. How's everybody doing today?
Good.
Doing
If you
good.
if you
Not
don't
too bad.
if you don't know Matthew, he's an IPM specialist and I would say an insect expert. So if you have any questions about insects or anything about IPM, bring it on. And why don't you give an introduction, Matthew? Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, for those who don't know, I'm Matthew Gates. I'm an integrated pest management specialist, and I'm here to talk about pests usually when it comes to your grows. That could be insects, mites, fungi, things like that. And as Spartan already knows, I'm really into plant health in general as well, and trying to get rid of your pests, prevent them before they become a problem, and knowing the right ways to do that for different contexts. So I've been working in this line of work for 13 years now, and I feel like one of the things that inspired me to do this the most was working with friends of mine who were growing cannabis, but there weren't a whole lot of people who were interested in helping out, or at least a lot of the more official infrastructure in agriculture. That's still kind of the case in a lot of places, but um, I thought that that was unfortunate and there was a deficiency, and so I tried to help as much as I can. And at this point now, I've worked more in cannabis than any other crop, and it's probably going to continue that way.
Awesome. So yeah, if anybody has any questions, just highlight us. And yeah, we've it's a nice day out here today. Okay, sorry, I was just sorry, Heston was trying to get in and we didn't send the link to Heston, I guess.
Oh, that's
Sorry,
weird.
just one second, that caught me off guard. I just sent it to you on Zoom. Sorry. So, anyways, yeah, it's pretty nice here on the island tonight or today. We were checking out some Death Bubba, getting very close to the end of the crop. And
Oh, speaking of Death Bubba GMO, where inside someone today asking me about the Death Bubba cut that they're in Canada. How do they get a hold of it in Canada? Is there a online or something they can go?
Lifecycle Botanics sister company is called Covert Valley, and they have the authentic cut, and they have lots more than that, and they have it set up so you can actually get it if you have a medical license finally.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
It's kind of nice that it's finally evolved to that where medical people can get whatever kind of cut, because I know for so many people in Canada, well, do you know what? They've like it's almost been sold out for like the next couple months because everybody's watched me grow this thing on YouTube for 8 years or 7 years, and now it's finally available. So, yeah.
Excellent. I guess the responsibility at that point becomes making sure the genetics are free of fungi and bacteria and viruses, and making sure that you're not sending any sort of sickness or bugs for that matter along with it. So that's a big responsibility, making those genetics available. It's more than just saying, hey, let's sell some clones. It's a huge responsibility for the company that is doing the work. So shout out to them.
Yeah, well, Mark from Lifecycle Botanics, I think that they're potentially, besides possibly that tissue culture company that you said that you were doing some consulting for, Marcus, that they're probably up there ahead of most people because they have an in-house HLVD lab and they're a nursery. So it's like, I don't think that you can even be a nursery if you don't have an in-house lab at this point, for HLVD, because it can, like anybody, that if you got a nursery and you're taking 2 cuts off a mother plant and sending that in to test, you are not safe. You have to take it from all different parts of the plant and continuously do that like for weeks to know for sure that it's clear, because it hops around. It
really
crazy.
stores in the roots a lot too. So make sure you also get samples of the roots, because that's where that's going to show up early.
That's very true. Yeah, it's like having a lab like that, or having some organic way to your company to like getting that information. Virus indexing is no joke.
Yeah, like they also just have such a cool system. And believe it or not, even when we had the Death Bubba, like the Death Bubba got it, but we were able to get it out of it. So, and by that way, like you got a plant that one branch is infected and one branch isn't. So you can take that branch and now grow that branch out and cut it from 4 different, parts of the plant. And then they grow that out for like after 3 or 4 weeks of consecutive, every testing with nothing from all different parts of the plant, it becomes a queen mother, and now they can mom it out. And they still will do weekly tests on it to ensure that it's clean. So that, like, without dealing with a nursery like that, you're just getting so screwed over. Flatlander Fire, who comes on our show all the time, he got some clones from another nursery shipped across Canada. They didn't have it secured properly. So when it showed up, his clones were all over the place, and he found root aphids actually in it. And they didn't even refund him.
Wow.
I was like, holy crap. It was like, can you believe, like, it's gotten to
I can believe it.
Can't stay in business long doing that, I tell you that.
well, how could you stay in business with root aphids at a nursery?
Well, aphids aren't super lethal a lot of the time, even at big numbers. So
Root aphids aren't?
yeah, not
Really?
a lot of time people can have like hundreds. I've definitely walked into situations where the plants aren't like dying really, and you've got like hundreds of aphids on it. It's not it's not.
But what's the reduction of the crop? Because there has to be some
Yeah.
level of crop loss towards the
There's
end,
hops.
and then
There's
if it is like sort of a medical product, how do you get the aphids off so people aren't smoking them? Like, I guess at that point you have to make hash.
No, exactly, to your first point. Like, you're still gonna have, like, it's detrimental. I'm not saying it's a good thing to have, but that's why cuttings can be spread so easily. And you might think, oh well, like they might not know they're rice root aphids, for example. So they'll kill all the ones in the foliage and go, they keep coming back. I don't know why. So that does happen. And to your point, you have to be very conscientious about what you're applying, and not applying something that is obviously going to be not healthy for the person who's going to consume it. And when I find people who don't know, right, like, it's an opportunity. I don't try to lambast people. Like, hey, did you know that actually you shouldn't be spraying this like neonicotinoid or something, or abamectin or whatever? Don't be applying this systemic compound. There are other options for you. There are alternatives, and I find that that's very effective. Some people don't take it very well, and they think that the thing they've been doing is fine. But in other cases, people usually I think it's a net positive for the community.
Well, I got a kind of a funny story. Well, we were talking about root aphids, and there's one product out here. It's got some sort of maybe fungicide in it that's kind of systemic that goes into that you treat the root aphid, that's meant for treating root aphids. What would it be
What's the
called?
fungicide?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, or
Is it like a fungus?
yeah, like a fungicide, some sort of that goes into them and like they start.
Yeah, it's an entomopathogenic fungus.
What is it called? Does it start with a B?
Bouveria, Batiana?
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So it was in a product that we were buying. But what's kind of funny, Charlene, can you go to YouTube and type in root aphids cayenne pepper? Because this is what screwed me over, actually, this video, because we'll go back 7 years ago, and you guys remember Ming Dynasty. He was
sorry to interrupt. I have 2 YouTubes pulled up. I can't pull up YouTube.
Open up another page. Oh, you mean you can't
I'm on Explorer and Google Chrome broadcasting on YouTube right now.
Oh, but there isn't a page that you can share?
I mean, is it going to mess up if I open another YouTube? The broadcast?
Oh, I thought there was you had a screen where you could just kind of share.
Well, I
stuff.
do, but my concern is if I sign in on YouTube on a whole nother tab, is it going to?
You don't need to be signed in. You don't need to be signed in.
Okay, hold on then.
So if you look it up, it's called just type in root aphids cayenne pepper. So I believed I had this is my first time in my life having root aphids. I got thousands. I've never seen anything like it. I'm going in the pot and I got thousands of them. And I see this video that shows this guy treating the plant with all this cayenne pepper and then watering it in. And I'm like, wow. But they're still running around. So I try the same thing and it doesn't work at all. So then I do some research and I buy that product, spent like $800 on it. And like, we're watering it in. I even go to the point where I'm using a double dose and watering it in. And it's nothing. There's doing nothing. And I what's so the funny part of the story is it wasn't root aphids that I was trying to kill. It was hypoacis, and I didn't know. But in this video, he's
So
like,
it totally signed me out. It totally messed it all up.
just searching on a regular YouTube browser.
Like I opened another tab and it signed me out of my Google YouTube that I think we're streaming on.
Okay, well let's. Or Spartan, can you
Hold on
open
a
up?
second.
Or not? One
Yeah,
second.
I'll take a look. What am I looking for?
Just type in cayenne pepper, root aphids, and it will come up. But anyway, so in that video, they misidentify root aphids.
Oh wow.
And like what I learned is hypoacis are like indestructible. You can like they literally, and I've never seen it where there's truly thousands of them. If you just knock the pot, it would come up and there's hundreds everywhere, like going everywhere. And like no matter what we do, we couldn't get rid of them. And they like obviously I didn't know that they were. I actually discovered it actually on the crop where we ended up having. I had to chop down my very first medical crop because I had HLVD, and I made a post saying I have root aphids, and I'm like. And everybody's like, that's not a root aphid. That's a beneficial one. They're like, ones that are, or was it ones that are fast are good, ones that are slow are bad? Or is that what we're saying?
That's usually what I like to say. And that's like a nice. It doesn't work for everything, like ambush predators, for example. But a lot of times, like predators are moving around trying to seek out their prey, and pests that are like herbivorous, right? They're usually going to be on some part of the plant, and they're going to be eating it, and so they're usually not moving around a whole lot, and especially things like aphids. So that's a pretty good diagnostic tool.
I don't have the ability to share. It says.
Oh, 1 second here. Now you do.
All right, here we go. Let me see. How do I think I'm doing this right. Do you see my screen? There's a bunch of YouTube videos.
Yeah.
Which one are you talking about?
How to? I don't see it as.
They might have changed the title or the thumbnail.
Just say.
I hate this fact. How they're
Just
born
how to
from-
kill root. How about how to kill root aphids? Let's see.
I have a video if you want to see how the Bavaria works.
Okay. I just wanted to show. It's got to come up, and just type in pepper afterwards.
Huh. All right.
Oh, maybe it's not the internet.
But he removed the word cayenne.
Oh,
Isn't it cayenne? Isn't it cayenne pepper that you wanted typed?
Oh, I just it didn't come up for whatever reason though.
Oh, when he had cayenne pepper in there
Yeah,
already.
yeah. I thought maybe it would
Yeah.
just come up with how to kill root aphids. But anyways, this.
Well, listen, it'll probably come up on your search engine through your
Yeah,
algorithm
exactly,
because you've
exactly.
already had it come up. So to me, you've got 4 screens. You should look it up. I bet you'll find it.
Yeah.
The algorithm's weird that way though sometimes.
Oh, I see. It's
Hold on a second here. This is it. Oh, yeah, that is weird. How
it didn't come up because it said that it was like you have to be like
Signed
verify
in?
your age or something.
Okay. So, anyways, this was the video that screwed me over. It's kind of funny because like cost me over $800 too, and I was misidentifying root aphids for people too when I'm seeing their posts. Like I feel really bad telling people, "Hey, you got root aphids, man," when I was wrong.
It's a pretty common thing that people will get conflated. It's why.
Okay, so yeah, see,
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
so I seen them all over this, and like he's telling me that this works for sure. It's kind of funny because I thought, and like for a good few years, I believed these were root aphids every time I saw them. So, anyways, this is what.
That's frustrating.
So you should have seen how much cayenne pepper I bought. Like I
Were you
wanted to
choking?
I put like an inch of it across the top and watered it in. It didn't do anything. Like we tried It's not ISO. What do other people use besides ISO sometimes to water and it's got alcohol in it? Not ISO.
Hydrogen peroxide,
Yes, like a low dosage of hydrogen peroxide. And
3% usually.
I can't concluded these things are indestructible. Like, they can't. And like there were so many of them. Like I've never really seen it where I have thousands, like in a pot, maybe even thousands upon thousands. Have you seen it where it's that bad?
With the
Hypoacis.
asbestos? Yeah, so
I have.
I've definitely seen it where there's like tons.
Like-
I've definitely seen it where like proportionally a lot more than even this.
Yeah, there you go. This is the cure, guys, for a beneficial bug.
If we're beneficial.
And like these videos are everywhere. You got to be careful where you get your information.
You should see the comments. It's like, you freaking idiot. Like I should have read the comments.
Other people.
Oh yeah. But anyways, that's this. So don't let that happen to you. This happened to me. It's pretty crazy that could actually
Still props for trying something new because a lot of people get oh, Heston needs to get in here. He's got his hand
Oh.
raised.
Sorry, Heston, if I missed you. Shit.
But no, I like that people try things and then you can say for sure, nope, that does not work. Not because somebody's opinion it doesn't work, not because it said something on a paper that it didn't work, because I tried the damn thing and it didn't work.
Yeah. No, exactly. You know, another thing that I found that was indestructible, but I don't know if I told you this, hey, Heston, thank you. Sorry that the link didn't get sent.
It's all right. Sitting in the corner like a fucking child. I was sitting right through it.
We love you, man. We love you.
No, that's fine. It's fine. I just sit here and listen. I'm just sitting here making a list of questions. It's fine.
Wait, what I was just gonna say that I don't think I told you this, but so I made a post. I found these bugs in here before when I lifted up this tray, and so everybody, I poured isopropanol right on them and drowned them, so they're swimming in it, and then they sat through that and walked through it out of it, and everybody that's like, we pay for those. They're rogue beetles, so they were rogue beetles. I can tell you, man, rogue beetles are indestructible. They can swim in ISO and be okay. 99% ISO, like they can stay in it for like a period of time and then walk out and be totally fine. Like those
So
are
can most Canadians.
What now? Rogue beetles. Aren't they a good one for fighting root aphids too, or not?
Yeah, well, not so much in my experience. There are some people who market them that way, but I haven't seen. I haven't personally experienced, and I haven't seen anything that would indicate that they would be like research literature or something like that. But they are good for other things. But the other thing is that there's different kinds of rogue beetles. So like a lot of times they look very similar to each other. They don't look like other beetles. They're kind of slender, and they have like they can fly, although I rarely see them fly. Some people even had them fly into their bud, and that can be a quality control problem.
Oh, so they do fly. I didn't realize that.
They do, but they have to be motivated to. And I think that one way is if they get like if it's too crowded, I think there's like a dispersal behavior response, but also I think if the irrigation is really good, they might like flee the area.
Oh, really?
I think so. But to be honest, I personally have not seen it very often for some reason. But I know people for whom it like happens all the time. So I don't really know how to call that.
So what would you say they're good for as a preventative or to fight?
Oh yeah. So for example, like the quiescent form of thrips is a big one. So like when thrips are larvae, they get to a point, they don't pupate, but they like kind of just stop moving. They don't eat, and a lot of times they'll fall into the substrate, and so rogue beetles will come and find them that way. That's one example. People also will use them for things like fungus gnats and fungus gnat larvae, although to be honest, the fungus gnat larvae that are going to be in the topsoil is typically the oldest, the most mature, that are going to pupate soon. So in some ways, that's a really great way to like break the chain, because when they're pupae, or puparia, they're immobile. They don't move. So the rogue beetle comes around and it's like, oh, I'm going to eat this defenseless thing.
Okay. So you don't really recommend them that much, or is it part of, or is it
Oh, well, not for like root aphids, for example,
but
but
just for as a preventative for thrips? So that sounds good.
yeah, like it depends. If you are able to, if it's practicable, the way I would say it is this: you want to have as many breaks in the chain of its life cycle as possible. And if you can afford some way of doing that at each point, like egg stage, larval stage, in between stage if it has one, and adult stage,
Yeah.
like if for insects and mites and things, then you should do that. But that's not always possible for people. So a lot of times the best you can hope for is attacking the youngest stage so that when the adults reproduce, they basically don't, and then they die, and then the population dies out.
Gotcha. Heston, you said you had a couple questions going here.
Well, just back to the hop latent viroid is kind of when I first popped in, and definitely wanted to hear your opinion on that, and like what insects are vectors for hop latent viroid. Thrips, I've heard, seems like it would be a pretty obvious one, but what is especially important to look out for? I know this is like a conversation that everyone's having now, and I think that those vectors, and there's got to be more than one insect that can be blamed for that, right? Or what should we look out for or pay more attention to in just anticipation of prevention?
So I'm not a virologist, but my understanding is that here's the thing. So there are some insects out there that are very famous for being virus vectors. Probably the biggest one are aphids, which in some literature that I've read account for maybe 75% of plant virus transmission,
Wow.
at least in agriculture, and perhaps also just like in nature. And that's because their mouth parts are kind of like hypodermic needles. And when they go to feed on the sap of plants, they get little taste tests of the cells around the what's called the phloem sieve element, which is where all the sugars are from photosynthesis. It's moving around. And when they take these taste tests, they're secreting this saliva that suppresses the plant immune system locally. And since aphids reproduce really rapidly, this sort of stacks as they radiate outwards. And that obviously will help a virus that it might have taken up and then regurgitated. But the thing is, and this is true for other insects as well, like thrips and whitefly and mealybug, is that they don't always vector viruses consistently. So there are so-called persistent viruses and non-persistent viruses, and I think also semi, if I remember correctly. And the thing is that with hop latent viroid, it's not like other viruses. It's very simple. So it's plausible that insects like aphids and thrips and whitefly that suck up the phloem, they probably could. You know, it's plausible. But the thing is that there's research that shows that there's wacky things that happen sometimes, and something that might seem intuitive actually doesn't happen. And so I think it's very important that I'm intellectually honest with this answer, that I'm not sure to what degree, if at all, but I feel like it's very plausible. And there's also circumstantial evidence that some other organizations, they're not peer-reviewed, published in like academic literature, right?
Oh.
That doesn't mean it's wrong, but it's just the kind of thing where you'd like to see more rigorous study. And I think that might even be happening right now as we speak. So.
Excellent.
Yeah, because sure, a problem. Like we know we were having issues with it before. We can go back and see that it was issues when we'd have houses that were just we couldn't figure it out. You know what I mean? You go back long enough, we know now that it must have been HLVD. So
yeah, I came across a client like 4 or 5 years ago, and they definitely, like, when I look back, it's pretty clear that they had a pretty strong symptom of like the characteristic hop latent viroid, like dudding, quote unquote, and that sort of thing, brittle stems and that sort of thing. I also want to say that we haven't known about viroids in literature, in the scientific world, for only since like the 1970s, late 1970s. So they're relatively new. and they get everywhere, and they also might even be transmissible through water as a vector, and also maybe, and we don't know about hot plate viroid in particular, but perhaps other viroids can move through like fungal mycelia in the soil, even beneficial fungi, perhaps.
Or the
So
most scary to me, pollen in the air. So
Yeah.
now outdoor growers have to grow in greenhouses or hoop houses with the micron filters to even block pollen now.
Mm.
and it can also vertically transmit through seed to some degree.
Which is terrifying too.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a prion. It's like very scary.
I wondered
Thanks.
about that though.
Tissue
The
culture.
transmission through seed, is it actually just because it's like on physically on the seed?
It's in the
It's
germ
genetically. Yeah. Okay. It's not like it's on the
Good
interior.
question though.
Gotcha.
Good question though. Good question. Actually, somebody just asked me that question like literally like yesterday, and
Okay.
it's a very. I'm glad people are asking that question because I think it might also be possible the other way too. Maybe I'm not remembering some key part of literature that I haven't read or something, but I think that at the very least is getting into the germplasm. So yeah.
Gotcha.
I want to shout out Greg Reese in chat real quick. A while back when we were talking about the cayenne GML, he said that he knows that they have in KNF, they have a ferment, a cayenne ferment that's supposed to work as a pest control. So it's interesting that maybe cayenne does have a use in IPM if you ferment it.
Interesting. We were just talking about fungus gnats a second ago and like talking about the larva. And what's kind of crazy in all my years of growing, like I've had fungus gnats plenty. I've inspected the soil. I've never come across fungus gnat larva like in the top of the soil. Like that little worm, the worm stage. I've seen lots of videos of it. I've never done it. A lot of people I know will always try to say, mosquito punks, or those mosquito pucks,
Mosquito dunks.
yeah, or dunks or whatever they are. Like, so here's the thing is, and like some people think that they're effective, and I've just completely disagree because I've tried them in every single aspect where we're soaking tons in our reservoir. We're soaking tons in our reservoir, and then we're also crumbling them up on top of every single individual pot. So when they're getting watered in, and like I swear it did absolutely nothing. Like it didn't seem to reduce the numbers in any aspect. There's this other product called Tanlin, I think it was called. Are you familiar with it?
I'm not familiar with that brand name.
Okay, it's Tanlin. I think Tanlin.
But is it like a biocontrol?
I can't remember exactly. It's supposed to screw them up, the breeding process up though, by watering it in. We'll try pulling it up, and they give a recommended amount, and I would use the recommended amount, and I would use quadruple the amount. Like when I would see that the regular amount isn't doing anything, I thought, well, let's experiment going a little heavy and just like absolutely nothing. So I'm kind of curious on what your opinion is on mosquito dunks and that.
I know people who swear by it, but in my personal experience, it's more closer to what you experienced.
Absolutely nothing.
So I'm not sure. I'm not sure how to grok that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I'm not sure what's going on. I don't want to deny people's experiences, but like
because I know if you let the plants dry out, like obviously drying out is supposed to slow them down. They thrive in a moist.
Well, there's like BT products out there that are effective against fly larvae. So that's the logic. That's my understanding for its use.
Yeah.
But there are other BT products that do work that I think are not like the mosquito dunks.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
If you wanna, but you were mentioning that Bavaria before, and I've also found like a good 1-2 punch is like some kind of botanical insecticide.
It was called Botanigard is the product that has it.
Yeah,
So-
Bavaria, yeah, Botanigard.
Yeah. Expensive. And
It is very expensive.
I don't know how
Go
bad.
to bogashiearthworks.com. Our buddy Brandon, he sells the spores. So you can just mix it with your own water. You can get the spores directly. And in fact, what I do is if I reuse my soil. So if I ever see fungus gnats, which is pretty rare nowadays, but if I do see them, I'll take the straight spores and just sprinkle them like I'm dry amendment on the top of my soil and putting like billions in the ground because I'm just like total nuking and just because I got that little thing of powder, that little vial of powder, and it's lasted me a long time because I don't barely ever have attacks. And when I do, I like over inoculate the soil.
And that with that stuff from Brandon, sorry, I was
Yeah, it's just a white powder that comes this I don't know what like strain of it is, but
so you just water that in and it's supposed to do the job for
yeah,
you.
you're supposed to just put a little bit in water and mix it in, and you can spray. You can even spray the entire plant with it if you want to do a foliar. But I usually just do a root drench with it, and it works good for me.
According to him, it's a pure spore culture.
Okay. Is that bad? If let's just say, for example, it got on your skin, is that bad?
Oh, I don't think generally.
Okay. No, I was just curious, like, because I remember when I was
But
dealing with
you should be you should be protective. Like,
Yeah,
you should
'cause
try
I-
not to have that happen and take measures to do that.
like I remember with Botanigard using it when we're being it's kind of messy and gross and thick and like
Oh,
remember
yeah.
kind of getting it all over the place and going like getting grossed out and not knowing is this really poisonous? But I guess if it's the fungicide, it's not so bad.
Well, like, and there's a wettable powder version too. So it sounds like you got the emulsified solution.
Definitely we did. It definitely wasn't the powdered
I
version.
would not apply that to the roots, my friend.
No?
Yeah, it's gonna burn your plants. Did it burn your plants?
I don't remember it burning the plants actually.
You did twice the strength.
Yeah, no, I don't remember that issue. But do you know what I did learn? And this is how behind I was when you go back 8 years ago, is like just completely clueless about how much light a plant can take in veg. And so we got these over veg plants that are on 18 hours a day with LEDs that aren't even being dimmed. And I'm not wondering why my leaves are tacoing. And it's kind of funny. I go back to that exact situation and I know damn well it was intense light, but I didn't have a freaking clue. And I did all my research on, seeing tacoing and then first thinking broad mites, russet mites, and going down a whole wrong rabbit hole. And we also, we nailed it to root aphids, but it ended up being those hypoacis. And really it was just intense light. The plants were overly grown and hitting probably 1,000 or 1,200 ppfd in veg for 18 hours a day, which will just cook your plant. And we're in this no-win battle that we didn't know.
I've had several people reach out to me thinking, like you did, that like there's something wrong, and I see this bug. I don't know what this bug is, so this is probably the problem. I'm going to treat it like it's the problem. And that kind of like that misdiagnosis can be really tempting, right? I think my most popular video on my YouTube channel, which is called Zenthanol, like my company, is a video about hypoaspis miles and other predatory mites in the soil and springtails, and also mold mites. And like they're so common and they're so ubiquitous. But a lot of people, their first time growing might be actually growing cannabis of any kind of plant. So, and they might have very little experience seeing these small critters, and they might think it's a huge problem. And that's unfortunate what happens.
Well, when you bring up springtails, I think we actually touched on this last week. You weren't there, but like I can remember when people say it's a very beneficial bug to have. Well, we had him one time, and there were thousands dancing. Like I'm talking, so to the point where I ended up watching, I found a full like hour documentary and another like couple half-hour things where I put in 2 hours, and like it clearly said in there they will eat the roots. Like if there's like they can't eat your roots or feed on them, and like we had thousands of them, and again I couldn't get rid of them, and it like I was very annoyed by them. So I guess they can become a nuisance if there's just too many, right?
I think that like that's the thing. Like when people ask me if springtails or mold mites, for example, are a problem, the nuanced answer is the more appropriate one, which is that like especially seedlings, like especially if you have like cuttings or seedlings that are very young.
Which these were a clone stage.
There you go.
That
Yeah,
was thriving off them.
yeah. So generally speaking, they're not a huge issue, and maybe they'll take 1 or 2 bites. But if you have 1,000, and that's a lot different than like a half or a quarter or 1/10 of that amount, right?
I remember people arguing, telling me, no, they're good. I'm like, no, there's thousands. And I just listened to 2 hours and they have a documentary of this stuff. And
there's different kinds of springtails too.
Yeah.
There's all kinds.
They like to dance though. So the ones
They
that
do,
like
they
these
do.
ones were dancing.
Or they irrigate and they're like on the surface of the water.
Yeah. Yeah, they look pretty crazy.
Pretty alarming.
Yeah, it can be. What else? We got any other questions coming?
I'm sure that there were a ton of questions in the chat.
Yeah,
Sure.
so let's see. Somebody was asking for some help with white flies.
Yeah, I saw that one in Mexico, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Is that a common one, whiteflies? I've never had to deal with them personally, and I guess that's more of a greenhouse situation.
My personal experience and the experience from people who I talk to, I feel like whiteflies are not very common for most of the people that I talk to. But I know some people who they get them every year. So
I think it's an outdoor problem way more than indoor.
you say that, but I have encountered them more indoor. But I think
Really? Opposite.
yeah, see, that's what I mean. That's why I try to seek experiences outside of my own experience. Because I think it depends too on what whitefly we're talking about, maybe because
Good point.
there's greenhouse whitefly, there's silverleaf whitefly, which is the one I have the most experience with in cannabis and in general. So dealing with them, right? So I like to use like something like pyrethrin as a directant, personally, a contact pesticide that, especially pyrethrin, not pyrethroids, not permethrin, but it's nice because it breaks down really quickly in the presence of light and water. So it does its effect. It's contact. It doesn't get into the plant, and then it degrades away. That's what you want.
You said it's not pyrethium. Could you say what is it?
It's not permethrin
Permethrin.
or a pyrethroid, which is a compound that's like some of the pyrethrins, but pyrethrin is from chrysanthemum,
Okay.
or it can be synthesized.
Okay. Now I saw someone bring up diatomaceous earth. What do you think about that? And treating, like, I knew a guy, well, he used to be a panelist of ours, that would actually put it in a container and add water and then spray his plants.
Oh, yeah.
And he said it was like giving it kind of like a defense. How do you
Yeah.
how do you feel about, or would you use it, or what's your opinion on it?
So like DE it lowers its efficacy is lowered when it absorbs moisture.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And water, spraying it in water. So that was totally not working.
I don't think so.
Counterproductive.
I feel if I'm wrong, like prove me wrong, chat, because I don't because for example,
I think what he was saying before, the same, I think if we're thinking about the same person, he said he did it so that it would, not for it to be effective when wet, but to allow it to spread as a spreading agent, to spread it onto the plant, then to dry and then become effective again. That was kind of the mechanism he was thinking.
yeah, I wonder about that, to be honest, because you would think that if it dried, then you would have like you would have the powder again, right? But maybe it clumps up afterwards. The reason I bring it up is because there's a researcher who I've read his work a lot, and I'm forgetting his name at the top of my head, but basically he tried to figure out if DE would be effective against fungus gnats, like on the topsoil.
Oh,
Which is what a lot of people use. And this is not cannabis, but it should be still effective, right? Because there's fungus gnats in other plants.
Yeah, this should be the same.
He found that it was not effective at all. And so like I'm surprised when people tell me that it works for them, because I'm not sure if that's what's doing it. I don't know.
I it's funny you say that, because this is another topic where I actually have a way of beating fungus gnats where it's a guaranteed 100%, and I can do it in about 7 to 10 days. And what you have to do is you have to line, first of all, your pot with landscape paper so that they can't go through the bottoms of your pot. And what's really annoying about this treatment, because I tried this with different ways and I came up with this. And if anyone goes long enough back, you're going to remember my YouTube channel when I documented this. And I put sand, and I put a thick layer of
You
sand.
hated the sand.
I hated it because it added
Water
so
it.
heavy and it added so much weight. And when you do water it with a wand, it's going to push it away and rinse it away. Like so, after you do water it, you actually have to be, I was just crazy, and I went over every single pot and would push it back and make sure the sand is over covering the whole thing. And as long as you have a 1 inch of sand, you're guaranteed it chokes them out. They cannot make it through it. They can't burrow through and they can't burrow up. So you can actually, but if you don't have landscape paper at the bottom of your pots, they start just going right in through the bottom of the landscape paper. So what we would always do, we started pre-lining our pots with landscape paper just in case if they were going to show up. Because it's not like I would have them every single time, but if they did have them, I wanted to eliminate them. And then when I came to my crazy, I used to do an unorthodox high volume flush. It was an issue. So I would have to then, because you start filling up the pot really high, and then the pot would start floating. So we would have to then, when it comes time to flush, stab every single pot with the scissors into the corners to be able to free the water out.
Just sink it. That's hilarious.
But and here's another thing, if it's too late and you haven't done it and you haven't had the landscape paper, if you tape up your pots and like obviously water has to get through, if you do have runoff and you're gonna have to retape them, you can smother them out. And well, what is the life cycle of a fungus gnat?
Well, you never said what you put instead of
Like
sand. So what did you use instead of sand?
Well, I tried it once with the very first time with perlite and it didn't work. I don't know if you remember that. And then I used sand. You have to use sand.
So sand is the only thing that works for
Sand
you.
has to work. Like I tried it with perlite and it didn't work. And oh my goodness, they ended up being able to like go right in, like because perlite doesn't pack and it's so light, so it wasn't able to stop them. But it's just funny how we were like when you just brought that up and we were talking about putting the layer, it's like sand works 100% conclusive for me, and I could kill them. It was just after I would then kill them, I'd be like going and then scraping out like the sand off the top. It was just I hated it. I remember the time doing it with perlite too, because it's like so dusty, it's like breathing glass. It's so bad for you too.
IPM for you.
Yeah.
Human
Keston's
IPM.
laughing here. You like the cure to fungus nuts?
No, I was just talking about breathing that dust in.
Oh.
Just fucking dude. Oh yeah.
Oh, oh my goodness.
I'm so guilty of that. I was just mixing up some soil last week, and there's like a paper mass sitting on my shelf right next to me, and I'm just dumping fucking particulates go in my face and breathing. Yeah, just so bad. Got to be better about PPE. Always important.
I absolutely hate
But you grow a beard.
You got to grow the mustache
Michigan protection.
filter over your.
Yeah.
Hey man, that's a good idea. Yeah, I used to actually, for every bag of Pro Mix, I evolved where I would use 2 bags of perlite. So like that, like towards the end of my larger growing career, we for those long bags for every bag of Pro Mix. So like half my stuff was perlite. So the dust.
Gotta be so dusty. Oh my god.
Oh, hated it, man. I used to like getting people to come over for that for potting. But
you need like a sprinkler system to have just a fine mist spraying the whole time you're opening those bags and stuff just to keep the dust down.
But here's another thing that I never implemented that I just don't understand how still people haven't, that I always wanted to do. Over every single light, I wanted to have like a mister tied in. So like something you could almost slide over with the chain. And then like when the lights are out, if I want to do any type of preventative spray, it would just be like a mist for the whole row, or even like
I thought that would be cool. I've seen a greenhouse one time like that. They called it a natural water system. I really liked it.
Yeah, because one thing that I've always noticed outside plants, like, you have like a crazy rainstorm and you think they're going to hate it and you come out and they've grown 6 inches, you know what I mean? Or something just ridiculous, being able to turn that on in veg when you want. Like, that's one thing that I always know, that they love being sprayed just with water, but what are you going to stand in there for the room for half an hour with a fog or a mister? And it's just not doing the same thing of, if you could have it raining on it.
Yeah, I always think that it's, I call the leaves like the solar panels of the plant. So I'm thinking it's just like, if you have solar panels, it's good to go out there and clean them with some water too, and keep them efficiently growing. So it's the same thing with the leaves on the plant.
It's kind of amazing. Like, and I'm gonna just assume that Matthew must have seen this by now, like in dealing with and consulting with greenhouses in California. But you would think, like, how do you not have a line that goes underneath with a mister that's spraying up for IPM? Do they have that or not? Like, because like you would think that you would have that on a schedule too. It'd be so easy to do. Too.
There are things like that, but yeah, I feel like a lot of people who grow cannabis don't take advantage of that.
Yeah, like just take the labor out of it too. You have a mister from underneath. Like, you can't do a better job if you have something misting out from underneath than like trying to get underneath there with a sprayer.
Very hard.
I would say the only negative that can pops to my mind that I would be worried about at a commercial setting or even in a greenhouse setting is that if you're going to be tested, especially for microbials. Those lines that they're holding with water, how are those staying, clean and not?
They would have to be
microbes and then spraying that onto your plants.
Gotcha. Well, I would think that you would almost eliminate that by the time you've got into flower. The last spray would be 7 days into flower. Ideally.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
But for its whole life, it would it really makes sense to me. And I'm surprised. Yeah.
So
This
somebody
question
in the
just popped-
chat would like
Yeah.
Matthew to share some of the most IPM mistakes that he's seen growers make.
Yeah, okay. There's one that always comes to my mind when I'm talking to people about whether or not they should run things in tandem, because sometimes you can mix like certain pesticidal compounds, or you might have some microbial biocontrol that comes in the form of a spray, like the Blueberry we talked about. I remember working with a grower. This was actually not in cannabis, but was in Gerbera daisies, and they were wondering why their Blueberry wasn't working, and it was because they were mixing it with a fungicide. So tank mixing something that you don't know what it is, like it's really important to know what you're using and what you're doing. It costs them a lot of money, just in labor alone, let alone wasted product, and then they still have the problem that they're still having to try to deal with. So yeah, it's just there's so many ways that could have gone right, but it did not. So that that's a big one.
Yeah, and what about the misuse of predators too? Is that another?
That is a big one.
We were discussing it before the show.
One big one for me is like the importance of when, like, for example, if you get like predatory mites, for example, like you should sometimes. I understand that like the logistics is bad and sometimes things happen, and that's okay. Like they come in at the wrong time or whatever, but ideally they come in earlier. The earlier the better, and that also if it's like really hot, and even if it's not, like you have to use them immediately. You can't like put them in the refrigerator. you know they will die, or most of them will die if it's like overnight.
Really? Like I see so many people like get them and want to keep them in the fridge and think that that's
Yeah,
okay.
it's not. Yeah, I know. It's surprising, like, because usually biocontrol companies are pretty astute about that, and they're like, "Hey, don't do this." But maybe with the advent of people just buying them online, like from a representative or something, without like talking to anyone, even like a sales rep would tell you like, "Hey, don't do this." Usually, at least for the biocontrol companies I mostly have worked with, they're pretty on it.
Yeah. And I know we were touching on Aureus, the pirate bug earlier about, well, I was complaining to Matthew about how we were dealing with someone here and we're in flower and we were buying these things and putting them into a 12-hour light cycle.
Right. Yeah.
And that
That causes diapause. So it's kind of like a state of torpor, hibernation. So they stop being active. Oops.
which is like so ridiculous.
Now
So
some biocontrol cultures, they have strains that don't go into diapause.
really of
Yes.
Aureus.
I believe so.
Wow.
I might be thinking of a different beneficial, but I'm pretty sure it's Aureus.
Aureus. Okay. Yeah, because that's definitely, well, for the ones that we had, like someone else tried to tell me that I didn't know that I was just upset because I thought they were you let them out on the very first day and they're going crazy. And yeah, I did see them throughout the rest of the day, but I didn't ever see them actually going after anything individually, like after that point. And one other thing I wanted to touch on, what is your opinion on the crazy mite? And have you ever had it?
Yeah, the whirligig mite, Anistis bacarum. It's really cool. I like them as a concept, but they're kind of new commercially. So, and some of the people that I know who have used it, I don't have a lot of personal experience using the product myself, but I've certainly seen them in like in grows, like in outdoors and things, and I've come across them a bunch. I have some videos on my YouTube channel that show them and go over them. They go after a lot of different beneficials like thrips, whitefly, aphids, which is really great because a lot of insects that go after the other ones don't go after aphids too. So it's kind of neat that they have that additional layer. But a lot of people I know who've tried to use them, they've kind of reported mixed results. And I don't know if that's maybe because they're new, the appropriate rates and things and like what's the best way to use them is maybe not understood. I don't know.
Well, I caught some I actually have some pretty cool footage
Oh,
of it
cool.
where well, first of all, I ordered them and they weren't cheap either. They're pretty expensive. And I was a little, so I thought, oh, this is kind of cool. Let's have as many defenses as I have. I've got Swirsky, Cucumaris, and I still, no matter what, I cannot beat these thrips that I have. Like this was on like I ended up having to cut the crop down because of HLVD. Like once I got into it, but I just couldn't beat them no matter what I did. And so I got them, and I got that, like, there's a lot of thrips. I released them in an area with thrips, and I got it on camera, them bumping into the yellow worm, and then like at the worm stage, and still not wanting to interact with it or go after it at all in any sense. So then I was like, what the heck? Like from the people I bought them from, and they're like, oh well, they were already pre-fed, so they're not hungry. They're just wandering. And then she's like, and they'll take that opportunity and eat anything, is what they try to say. I'm just like, well, do you have any documentation where you can show these things eating a thrip? And they couldn't. And I was like, what? You guys are selling these saying that they'll go after thrips, but you haven't even got it on camera showing it?
Well, that's weird because I know people who sell it, and the way that I found out was because one of the people who does the studying for the whirligig mite, they shared footage of it. So
Really?
that's too bad.
But what stage where was the thrip at that they killed? Was it like a more like a really
Oh,
smaller?
I don't remember
Because it was just with the yellow worm stage where they can't fly. It's not an adult.
so larval stage.
Yeah, larval stage. And
Yeah.
I had it like bump into it like 4 times, and I keep on grabbing more and putting them in the area, and I'm seeing them walk right by them or actually bump into it and then turn away. Like,
Yeah. You know, they like a lot of these predatory mites are basically blind.
oh really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So they only interact with the world through scent, or they mainly interact with the world through scent and tactile sense. Now, a lot of times that's good enough. They like find something and they go, "Oh, I'm going to attack it." But maybe that's part of it. And the thing about being fed, like I don't know, like what the context of the conversation was, but like it is true that if they had already fed, now, you know, just like post being applied, but then they fed on something else, like they aren't going to attack things. So
There might be some truth to it.
that video could be a little bit, you know,
I could have been misled, and it could have just been very bad luck that I had full.
I've been frustrated too, though. Like I've seen persimmilus mice that go after spider mites, and I'm like, what? Like looking under a microscope, right?
Waiting for it, and they just won't
And
do
then,
it.
well, like it like goes over the spider mite and like taps on it, and then like so like it seemed like you made a you know, you identified it, right? Like
You made contact, but it wasn't
it
interested.
just wasn't interested.
Or it didn't feel it was tough enough to do the job.
It doesn't make you feel good when you see that.
Oh yeah, I guess not. So it's not just like an instant thing where they're coming on and going.
Sometimes it is though. I've seen
Oh.
that too. So
I guess it goes by how hungry they are.
part of it is, yeah. A lot of times though, a lot of times like persimmilus mice will often eat the eggs before they'll eat other stuff because like it doesn't fight back. It's
Well,
like wrangling a cat, like it's like wrangling something bigger than you.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's like they're punching above their weight, yeah.
Now, you brought up about, now I believe this was a non-cannabis crop when we were talking earlier about green light attracting predator bugs to a certain area.
Yeah, I can't remember whether it was like a parasitic wasp or like a midge or something like that, but some sort of beneficial that flew. And by using green light, they were able to focus it or attract it to a location. And this was in like some flower, not in cannabis, but in like daisies or something. I'm not sure.
That's so kind of cool because you just, wherever your infected area, you would have like a spotlight blaring if that could work, and calls everybody too. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that kind of stuff, like I was recently talking on the Cheap Home Grow podcast with Spartan. We were talking about blue light and how it was creating better efficacy in parasitoid wasps. So having more blue light and exposing it to the wasps in their environment, they got more kills essentially, and I think they lived longer potentially too. And I'm not sure by what mechanism that happened, but that was the results of their test. So, you know, seemingly that might be a thing, and that kind of stuff, that kind of discrete use of light, I think is really interesting, and I'm excited to see more of that come about.
Yeah. Someone in chat just brought, I'm probably not saying it correctly, Spinosad or
Yeah.
And someone said it's 2 bacteria. Now I know it's banned in Canada. It's not Health Canada approved, but I hear lots of people using it in the USA, and I hear a lot of people being actually very effective for thrips and a couple other products. Is there something bad in there that's systemic, or is it is it just a bacteria? What is it?
So spinosad or spinosad it's made up of spinosins, which are the compounds. And originally, when these were found, they were developed by so a researcher discovered them. I think it was a bacteria that produces them. So that's where they come from. And I think nowadays people, pretty sure they synthesize it, or maybe they extract it from bacteria. I'm not sure, maybe both. But I think in some plants, I think it can be systemic, and in other plants, I think it's not. So my understanding is that maybe that's why people are being cautious. But I actually don't know what goes on in the minds of the people who write the laws about this sort of thing.
Oh, okay, yeah, because I know. Well, first of all, I know Health Canada can just to get something approved through them is a very lengthy process that
Like
doesn't have-
California is like that.
where you have to do it over like a year period and show like it. There's all like show it storing and being stable and all different types
There
of
are
things.
entire wings of like pesticide companies that are devoted like, okay, you tackle California. We'll do everything else in the USA.
Okay.
But I mean,
Oh.
I do like the worker protection.
So State here, who's from, I know he's in Oregon, and he says that it doesn't break down and you can't pass a legal test. with it.
Because they're testing for it.
Yeah,
But
okay.
we're asking why.
Oh, but is it bad? Yeah, like is it something in there that's actually bad?
Yeah, I think that, like for example, like it might not. So it sounds like it doesn't degrade very quickly. Yeah,
Yeah. Now Pyrethian,
pyrethrin,
can you say it again?
pyrethrin,
Pyrethian,
pyrethrin,
Pyrethian. Did I say it there?
pyrethrin.
Pyrethrin. I'm the
Yeah,
worst at saying
not
it.
pyrethrin.
This is amazing to watch because I've got both ends of the spectrum here. You got Matthew, who is in love with language and embraces it, and you got GML who kind of struggles with it a little bit. So this is a joy. This is a joy to behold right here.
There's a product out here that we'd have a problem with cluster flies, and they would just like they come on your house and you spray this product and it's good for 6 months. If anything lands on it, it still kills them. Have you heard of it? And I thought it's based off that product that I still can't pronounce.
Pyrethrin.
Pyrethrin.
Pyrethrum. I don't say it right either.
Like
Pyrethrum is different, and I think that's why.
Oh, pyrethrum.
Yeah, exactly. Chemistry.
all I know is it's potent, that whatever it is, because if it can last for 6 months on a surface, and if a fly kills it, it kills it within like minutes if they land on it.
Yeah, I don't know the product that you're referring to.
Yeah, you have to have a license to be able to buy it. Actually.
So in the chat, they were asking for some suggestions on helping with powdery mildew.
Okay.
If you're in veg, wettable sulfur. Anytime else, go ahead, GML or Matthew.
No, I agree with that. I definitely agree with that premise.
Here's the thing about powdery mildew. There's one thing of getting it by a rare accident of it walking in and being on something, but in most cases I've seen it when people are having they're creating it because it's an issue, and it's like you've got at one point it's getting too cold with too high of humidity, and that's usually the start of how I see it usually start myself personally.
That's powdery mildew right there. I took that photo with my macro lens. That's what it looks like under a microscope.
That's wild.
That is
Yeah, that does
super
look
cool.
like the
In between the trikes.
those are the so what you're seeing, those small like droplets are the conidiophores. Well, the whole structure is a conidiophore, and each of those small sections I think are the conidia. I'm pretty sure. So powdery mildew is an ascomycete. It doesn't make big old mushrooms. It makes things like mold spores.
So is that mycelium we're looking at, or hyphae? What would that be?
Well, like those the structures that are on the surface you might call that mycelium, and the conidiophores are like the analog for the mushroom. That's where the spores are coming.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'd like to go back to mildew though, and nailing why you're getting it, because it's usually a very simple reason. And sometimes I've seen people fall victim for a really unsuspecting reason, like having a piece of insulation fall a little bit further down in your wall. And because of that, now it's not insulated properly and you've got a hot cold and it starts
Oh, yeah.
and then ends up rotting out your whole wall. And but before it rots out your wall, it's creating mildew for you, and you're not. It's kind of crazy how fast it can actually happen if it just gets cold enough. And a lot of people get really scared. And this is another thing that I was talking to somebody, kind of an old school grower, and they're blown away, and they're talking about the humidity being high, and the reason that's why they have it. And I said, it's okay, high humidity is okay, but you have to have high heat. And like that's kind of a hard thing to accept being an old school grower, because you you've never even heard of EPD, or so you're not even aware of it, and all you're thinking is your humidity has to stay completely low, and not realizing, no, it's because like it's got me so it took a long time for me to get used to that. But okay, I don't have to worry about it as long as I have the heat with it. So like for example, at nighttime, if I'm trying to lower my temperature and I can't control my humidity, I've got to keep it warmer or else I'm risking mildew.
One thing about powdery mildew is that so like a lot of people know that fungi do better when it's wet and humid a lot of times. But powdery mildew actually still survives pretty well even in a dry condition because it's got a lot of water proportionally in its spores. And it can also travel really long distances. There's possibly a few species of powdery mildew that colonize cannabis, and I think of them I think all of them have other hosts as well, so other host plants. But people are often worried, like they'll see powdery mildew on like some like dandelion or something, like in their driveway, and they're like, "Oh no, is this PM gonna get into my plant?" But I don't think it's necessarily the case. So be careful. Although I'm glad that people are thinking about that kind of thing. You know, you should be aware of their surroundings. Yeah, I'm not sure that those are the same powdery mildews, so you don't get it twisted.
On that
No,
note, somebody asked, can it pass on attached to harvested seeds? Should I treat my seeds a certain way when I harvest them?
I would think no, but I don't know.
Should you? I mean, you could. Um, I mean, like it's that's a doctrinal question. I feel like that's like maybe a fancy way of saying it depends. But like, there are people who will treat their seeds with something, you know, like on a seed hull, so like just in case there's like spores or things like that on them. And I think that's, I mean, it's certainly valid. But you know, at the same time, like maybe like with some like I feel like in the future you can do it now too, but like in the future I'm very excited for the premise of being able to like maybe have specific microbes and consortia of microbes that you can inoculate like on the seed hull. And so maybe you would sterilize the hull first, and then you would inoculate with something to like make sure that the right guys in the right proportion, you know, colonize the plant. You can have like a plant growth benefit and that kind of thing.
What about neem oil and like Azamax? Are you familiar with Azamax? Now, that's definitely totally banned here and extremely systemic. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, like as direction products in general, I'm not against them,
Really?
but I don't think you should apply it in flower.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
It definitely, if you spray it, like if you spray it in vegetation, it's definitely gonna still be in your plant and flower when testing.
That's not my understanding.
If it's Azamax,
Oh, maybe
Yeah,
I'm not sure what the formulation is.
there's like a few of them Azamax and like a couple knocked off ones where I'm positive that it is.
Really?
Yeah, we used to use it. Like it was always under or never over the table product, but you could always get it. But it's a guarantee. Like I had, just testing stuff, I know for sure, just even testing cuts that got sprayed with it once can't pass testing.
That's interesting. I've had different experiences, but maybe
we have a lot more stricter testing here too. I think
it could be the formula.
Okay.
Too. You know, like that's actually one thing that I like, and some people were mentioning in the chat too, which I didn't bring up, which is that like with some of these products, like it's not enough to say that it's a certain compound. And something I didn't respect a lot in the very beginning of my career was like the formulation of a lot of pesticides. that can sometimes be the devil in the detail that matters and makes a product more or less effective, but also could have other secondary and tertiary effects too. Like for example, in California, I mentioned pyrethrin, and a lot of times pyrethrin products are sold with an enhancer called piperonal butoxide, and you couldn't use products that had that at the same time, and they would test for that. So it could be that, you know, some of these formulas are for legitimate reasons, like not a good thing you should apply.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's also the different perspectives. You know, you have the perspective of either the guy trying to save his crop or the guy selling the chemicals as a business. And from that perspective, it's like, yeah, these should be safe. But from the I'm chronically smoking these resins and vaporizing them at high temperatures into my lungs, then you look at it from a different perspective and you're like, I don't know if I want anything sprayed. I don't really want like bugs on my plant to fight other bugs where they're all taking shits on my resin. You know, like I want to just have like clean, beautiful cannabis that I can extract the resin from, where I kind of eliminate all that other nastiness.
So I have a question about that, because when people tell, I'm not going to tell people that they can't have their opinion on this, but sometimes people will say that the reason they don't use biocontrols, for example, like predatory mites, is that they're afraid that the excrement from the predatory mite is going to be some sort of a problem. But like, to me, like, you do know the pest is also doing that too, right? So when I ask this question, then like, do you not do the converse? Do you throw away the plant because you have any pest excrement, or is that like, is that not sort of a hypocritic question? What do you think about that?
No, it makes sense. For me, I'm a macro photographer. So when I start photographing this stuff, you see the resin glands behind me, right? Pure resin glands extracted off of cannabis. The poo looks equally as nasty as these resin glands look good. And I can't get it out of my head. I'm just like, wow, it's like, that's like, there's just shit in my plants. You know, bugs look even worse, obviously, especially when they're all caked into the resin and attached to the
It looks
resin.
like some like robotic automaton, like from some sci-fi movie cover. I feel like.
Yeah. It reminds me of cordyceps, like the cannabis resin has taken over the control of the bug's mind and body, and it's just like froze it and locked it into place. It's amazing. But I hear what you're saying. I certainly don't think you're going to get like some E. coli or something from microscopic crap that's on the plants. But when I do think of like, you know, my mom's fighting breast cancer or something, and I want to make her the cleanest, nicest, most purified cannabis resin, I'd like to avoid the bug shit.
Well, yeah, I've always been a firm believer, even though I'm not against people using predators. Like because for my whole career, like I used to not go into flower until I had no bugs and everything was good. And I always believed no bugs is the best if you can, in all cases.
Sure.
I don't think that's invalid.
Yeah.
No, if only there was an alternative way.
Well, yeah, if there was just a way to be able to keep it out. And speaking of that, what's kind of funny is my very first, I don't think I've told any of you guys this story. I'm sure Spartan Grown might remember our very first crop on the legal market with our craft micro. So we get our clones, and I'm super paranoid just with all the testing and how hard it is. And we get growing, and like right before the crop, but before we were about to flower it, I'm like, well, let's just send off a test anyways, even though I do trust the people we're getting the clones from. So we send it out, and we fail for a systemic pesticide and an acting agent in this product called Bug Be Gone. It's like and like, so I phone Mark and I'm like, guys, you guys know how much we're paying rent here, or like our leases a month, and how much money this, like, people don't realize on the legal market how crazy it is. I know an LP out here in their 3-month running expenses are $1.2 million.
I believe that.
So like, and it's not the hugest one. Like, we're obviously a craft micro, was much smaller, but still, when we're paying $5,500 a month rent, and we just had to pay $5,500 a month rent for 2 years before our first crop to get everything set up, because it used to take way longer. And we were like, you realize how much costly, anyways, it was a false negative from the lab. Like so the lab, I'm like, oh my, how many other people are they doing this to is what goes through my head.
Let me give you an experience that mirrors yours, where I was working with somebody and they were using so I just told you the pyrethrin piperonal butoxide thing. Well, we were getting a product and pyrethrin was fine, pure pyrethrin was fine. But one day they get a shipment of it, and I guess it had the PPO in it or PBO in it. And like they called up the company and they're like, we don't know how that was possible. You know, this is separate product, but like it happens sometimes. So like that does happen. Like weird stuff like that can happen. For me, this has not happened regularly or anything, but weird stuff happens sometimes. You gotta wonder.
Well, what was so crazy is he was so, I felt bad for him afterwards because he woke up to this crazy shitstorm and he's like, no, man, my stuff is clean. And I'm like, well, you know, like, so like I remember us finding another lab and trying to get it expedited because we're like, we wanted to just cut the thing down and start over because like every day we're in it so deep at this point. And yeah, to go through that, it's just insane. But how often does that happen where they didn't do a second test and cover it? Like who accept, like maybe what if I just accepted that test and get
most people wouldn't do the due diligence, actually, I think.
Now that I actually remember it, we had used that lab on Vancouver Island that subcontracted it out. I was so mad when I found out. I'm like, you guys didn't do it yourself? You sent it to another lab?
Oh my goodness.
Well, they do that sometimes for like if they do like cannabis flower extract, they do flower tests, but they might not do extracts. So it depends on like that definitely does happen in the industry though.
Yeah, because they don't always do everything. Certainly, they don't have all the machinery that's kind of good for collaboration, or at least it can be.
They have it in their contract. You just have to like read through like an insane amount of literature to be like, oh shit, look at this. They can subcontract this out.
Yeah, that was the last time I used them. What else we got, guys?
So I just want to say some of the stuff that people have been putting in the chat that works for them. Mustard seed has been thrown in the chat, in both chats, that is really good for pests. Tea made from tobacco leaves works really good for fungus gnats. Cinnamon and lemongrass extract also is really good. A lot of people have said in the chat.
Well, my very first pesticide when I was 13, for my very first crop, we took cigarette butts and soaked them in water.
Oh, dude.
I know.
So basically, you were using radium-226 as your
extremely effective too. You know, and that same year was the last time I got real fish fertilizer, and I remember giving it to the plant, and it taken like a month before my plant didn't smell like fish. Like I'm telling them right throughout. Like it's like I'm not a fish guy either, so it wasn't.
That's probably some fire. That was some fireweed at the end, though, wasn't it?
I do apologize. I ate a piece of fish sitting next to Thomas just the other day.
It's all good, man. I didn't even smell it, to be quite honest.
I was glad. I was trying to like kind of keep it over like this.
Well, it's kind of funny when you guys that crop I showed somebody, and when right before I got all my top buds taken, and then I harvested because the guy I showed decided to rip me off. So yeah, but you learn early. First outdoor.
Yeah, back in the day, the golden rule was don't show anyone, or at least acknowledge the one person you do show will probably rob you.
Yeah, and it was pretty ridiculous that I was friends with the guy. We had stayed up all night on acid. It was light out. We went and I decided to go show him, and yeah, then he stayed up all night with somebody else towards the end of the season and decided to take all the top buds. And they ended up drying it in an oven too. Like that's how crazy and brutal this was. I was so mad because like I thought I'd worked all summer for it, and yeah, you know, I was young.
Oh, it's the worst thing ever, man. You're not the first or last person to have that experience. It's terrible. But for those of you listening, I know cannabis is becoming more legal, but still there'll always be people that just don't give them the chance to take your crop.
Yeah, back then it was $15 a gram.
Ooh,
So like straight up, $15 was actually a lot of, in 93 was a lot more money. And it
yeah.
didn't come easy. Yeah. It's kind of funny. 15 bucks a gram, 40 bucks an eighth, $80 a quarter.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I want to shout out. I see both Ferroli and Pedro's Grow Room in chat right now. Those guys have their own show, Variables Podcast, on Fridays, and they've interviewed myself and Bubble Man and Matthew all on their show. So shout out to those guys.
Oh, Matthew was on the show last night, actually.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah. Yeah, guys. Yeah, we live on an island. Matthew is here on Vancouver Island. And what do you think of the island?
Pretty nice. It's not as cold as I thought it would be.
Well, this is the actual warmest part of all of Canada.
Oh, really?
Basically, yeah, I would say so. Or yeah,
The
or as far
California
north
of
and south
Canada.
as you get. Or yeah, sorry, as far west and south as you get, basically. Or Victoria would be slightly warmer, I guess. But Qualcomm's it's pretty warm.
They were asking too for an update kind of on the IPM light. How's it working and all that good jazz.
Who?
In the chat, there was a question on the IPM light. Asking how it's working.
Oh, with Athena IPM? Oh.
No, somebody asked Heston, IPM light, how's it working?
The intralight?
They just said IPM light.
The intralight I had in my 4x8 bed, I had taken it out a couple of months ago. If that's what they're referring to. Who asked that?
Oh man, it was way up there. Maybe they'll chime back in.
That was the light that I was doing the beta testing on last year.
What else we got?
And somebody just getting with growing said mustard seed for gnats. It works great. I've never heard that before. I wonder
I've heard some people use that. Yeah, and I haven't used that myself, but some people do swear by it.
just like as a top dress or something.
I believe so. I believe
Okay.
so. Or something similar to that, like a drench. Actually, I'm sure Thomas wouldn't like this, but I recently planted a plant that's called fish mint or lizard tail, and it's a plant that's the leaves they smell like fish.
Hey
Dude.
man, I do not discriminate against the word fish or fish in any
Well,
sense.
but it
I just
smells like fish, so you probably don't
No.
like it.
the strain smells like fish.
It's just a plant.
Oh.
It's not cannabis.
Oh, okay. I was like, geez, that did not sound like the type of terps I like.
Fish terps.
No, like I was saying, on an island, I just don't think I would do very good if I was stranded.
No, yeah, probably.
But I'm not against it. But yeah, that's definitely not my type of plant if it's got a fishy smell.
There's one thing worse than fish terps, and that would be fish sticks terps.
Yeah, that's definitely not my
Doesn't
flavor,
sound
man.
desirable.
Does not sound desirable.
I had a
bottle
joke,
it
I haven't
up
just
and don't
been
sell
bored.
it.
Somehow like gasoline and petrol and like sulfuric, those will sound way better than that.
Sulfur. That's a good thing.
I think
That's a
that's the
good thing.
new rage, the sulfuric
That
compound.
is, isn't it? Yeah.
Sulfur is a good topic to talk about because it is a pretty nice weapon, is it not?
Yeah, definitely.
Like that's something that, to be quite honest, I was kind of in the dark for until I saw people in the States using it. Like for years, we burned sulfur, which is it's
It's
horrible.
not good for you. Don't
So
do that.
it's
Chat,
not.
don't do that.
Yes, not only is it, first of all, we have it listed in our lights that you shouldn't be burning sulfur in the room. Secondly,
It sure fucks up the resin, I'll tell you that much. Like there's
Oh,
no
like, it doesn't
way to
take
get
long.
sulfur off the resin. You can't extract it. Like you can't get it off the resin once you've sprayed it on the plant. And the problem is people don't realize the resin is there even at the first sign of true leaves, the epicotyl that comes outside of the cotyledon. There's resin glands on those before they even crack open.
Would
So
short
for people
path
that are like-
distillation be the only way to be able to clean something from sulfur?
No, you can't clean it with short path distillation. You'd have to use other chemical solvents to isolate those compounds and remove them. Because people have made all sorts of oils, water hashes, dry sifts. The smell is always there. It's the gift that just keeps on giving.
But yeah, like I had never seen anybody in Canada up until I think it's actually I think it was Loki Grow was the first person I ever saw that was using it, and like then I started seeing like so many people just like in veg they use it and said it's like very effective against like even like I heard like against broad and russet mites it can even be effective.
Yeah, definitely. And it's really cheap usually.
Yes, extremely cheap. There's a product trying to think of it. There's a sulfur product here. It's made by Soapers. I'm trying to remember what it's called. And
Was it Defender?
yes. Oh my God.
Ooh.
You can kill your plant with it. That's why I just want to say, yeah, Marcus already knows. I've seen people like just, I guess if you don't have it mixed up perfect or you supply it or hit it slightly too hard, just burn your whole freaking room. It was Defender. It's a horrible product. So I was scared of sulfuric sprays because of this one product.
Dude, listen, I discovered that shit by making hash back in the day in the early 2000s, late 90s. I started making water hash for people with my bags. And one day I made it and I went to take a hit of this shit. And it was literally like someone lit a pack of matches at once. It was the sulfur smell that came off of it was so strong. And I started having to go down this rabbit hole and be like, what the fuck is this? And eventually it created an SOP for the BC Compassion Club, because what I told their buyers to do was, if you might not be able to pick it up with your olfactory, a lot of people don't have a sensitive enough nose to pick it up just on the flower. But if you grab a little pinch of the bud and you light it with a lighter and then put that under your nose and smell it, you'll smell that like lit match smell, which is I really learned to hate that Defender product and most of the sulfur products people were using. And it's why I started photographing resin glands on these small seedlings to sort of show people, look, like these things are present almost from the very, very beginning. So to think that there's no resin glands that can sort of be contaminated by these chemicals and not have it wash off because it's breached the wax membrane of the glandular trichome head. It's
I would have always thought that it would have almost been burnt sulfur that's doing that over. It'd be hard to be seen anybody using that Defender product in flower. You know,
yeah, I think if you stick with the sweatable sulfur in just veg, at least the common way of growing, I guess not every way goes this way. Any leaf that's really you see in veg was probably going to be ripped off the plant before you harvest. So anything that's there vegetatively will probably be removed from the plant and not be an end harvest anyway.
What would
there's an epicotyle. That's a seedling coming out of a freshly cracked seed. That's the first set of true leaves, and you can see it's covered in resin glands.
That's cool, man.
Yeah. Yeah, dude.
Yeah, that is cool.
Beautiful.
I was just going to say something. Oh, we were talking about sulfur. So what would you say that sulfur would work really good against or effective?
Well, so a lot of life on Earth doesn't take kindly to a whole bunch of sulfur. So a lot of insects,
yeah,
a lot of mites,
yeah,
and a lot of fungi. So it generally would be like insecticidal, micidal, fungicidal.
It's almost everything doesn't like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like for spider mites, I heard that it works pretty well too.
I would say so.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of incredible because like you wouldn't if you were just visually looking at wettable sulfur with Defender, you would think it's the same thing. And like I was terrified because like for years, like I've seen crops just ruined, man. Totally just ruined overnight because I guess you've sprayed too much and it's covering the pores. I don't have the full reason why, but oh my goodness, but I've never seen anybody spray wettable sulfur. And it looks like the same thing with Defender. You'll have wet stuff or white stuff all over your leaves like a paste almost, but I've never seen anything negative from just regular standard wettable sulfur.
That hasn't been my experience either, but I will say that like some people, I talked to one person who like they would not use it as a pesticide. They would use it because they're trying to kind of like foliar feed the plant in that way. So and so like in that way, maybe there is some sulfur that becomes what's the word? Sequestered
Okay.
in the tissue. But I haven't found that to be the case if you don't apply it in flour. But I don't know. Maybe there
Well,
are exceptions to that. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess in theory, if you are doing some sort of rinse, or if some leaves that were sprayed make it through to the end
Or
harvest,
like, or I
processing
could
it.
see somebody who applies it like still kind of too close. Like for like, you know, like when especially if like the inflorescence is there. Like I would be very dubious, you know, we're very close to a problem, you know, zone at threshold. So maybe some people play fast and loose with that.
Oh. Heston, well, I see you actually got kind of a bit of a breeding project going on right now. Why don't you kind of fill us in? I saw you were cracking a bud that looked pretty trigged out with some fresh seeds.
Yeah, those are fun. There's like a bunch of 2009 Afghanis from Frank at Purple Caper from San Francisco, and it's actually just a seed production run. It was all hunted and everything. He just sent me the genetics, and I just grew it out and pollinated the cutting he sent. And yeah, man, some really beautiful specimens, some really cool stuff like the Northern Lights and LA Confidential cuttings. So there's from like 2009, 2007 area from the San Francisco Bay. And they're fully seeded out, but they still ended up, like you said, super resinous and smelled really nice. So I'm looking forward to popping a few of those. And I actually got a few of my own coming up this next round, and I've managed to collect a few of my kind of personal favorites. The Romulan, like I said, I have the Romulan male from Jake that he was gracious enough to share with me, and I've got a bunch of landrace seed stock from the Indian Landrace Exchange, and gonna do some kind of landrace modern hybrid crosses, and we had like Jack Herrera, White Widow, the Romulan. I'm going to go hopefully pick up a cutting of Doctor Who from Odie here this next week, Homegrown Natural Wonders. And man, it's just yeah, a few of the.
I've got a seed pack of Doctor Who, some original sub cool ones.
No, nice.
That when you said that really perked up my ears.
I got that as well.
So
dude, nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So Odie, the story is he actually is the one that created the Doctor Who. So if you read into what he has written and about it, and he still has the original selected cutting from years back, and he's gonna share that with me. And that was one that Geek Farms ran for years, and Geek has kind of scaled down. I don't know if anybody's in Oregon that ever had the pleasure of getting flower from Geek Farms. They were definitely an OLCC licensed farm that did great work. But Odie's son actually is I think it's PR Bravehearts, and he's won a few awards for he does concentrates here in Oregon, the OLCC market, and he's won a few cups of Oregon Growers Cup. But yeah, so the neighbors basically a few minutes down the road over in McMinnville, and going to be able to use that in a few projects as well. So yeah, super excited about this next year. So should have some fun offspring.
Did you see
Sounds pretty awesome.
I made a post, I think it was yesterday, with Tate and Khan from Afghanistan. If Charlene, if you can pull it up. That was so sick. I like it. So many people are calling me because he's sitting in this field of dream of genetics. I know Marcus thinks we can make it there safe. I'm like, I don't know, man. It'd be a pretty fun trip.
Hashish opens a lot of doors.
Yeah.
Oh man, we sitting on all like there's so many pictures of all these different genetics of him, like short plants, dark plants, black plants, purple plants. Like
dude, picture us down there with a big fucking piece of equipment, just washing them all, creating different colored waters, different hues of resin, pressing it into rosin, like just static sifting the resin heads, macro photographing all of it. It would just be
can you make it so I can share my screen?
Amazing.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, like man, like I was just looking. There's if you just look in the field that's about to come up, it's like there's so many different types of strains. Like they just got all these different types. It's freaking cool,
Yeah,
man.
that was that's what Afghanistan hashish was back pre-71. They never grew from clones.
Are
They
we going to
grew
this
from
one?
seeds. There was type 1 and type 2
No.
plants.
Which,
Oh, go to my page.
oh, your page.
Yeah, it's just one of my most recent posts, like a couple away.
Right here.
Yeah. Yeah, the one where he's walking on the right there. Like, no,
No.
like it was like he was just go back for a sec. It was like the sixth one down on the right side. It's got 1,502
Go
likes.
blue.
This one that my hand is on?
Right above it.
Oh, I was on that one.
Oh,
Let me see. Okay.
guess that's a leg. It's like
The
where
leg is killing us.
yeah, it is. Look at this field, man. And you know what? You look at the ground and it looks like they're growing in clay. But I was talking to some people and it just is rich in phosphorus. Cool, huh?
Calcium phosphate. It's like super high calcium content too. That's why it's like so light colored and like fucking just
Yeah.
perfect.
It actually, I guess it's just too choppy like this, but it's still pretty cool. It's just like a field of dreams, and he's got you know how the Taliban have actually outlawed it there, but he has to pay them off. Like they come. He sent me a video with Taliban in there like the last couple times too. Pretty cool.
This video for Grandmaster.
Yeah.
It's so funny. Everyone's like, it doesn't get any more legit than that.
Awesome. Dude, I gotta bounce. My little guy's waiting for me. But thanks everyone. Shout out to
Thanks.
all of you for another great evening. Nice to meet you, Matthew, and stoked to see those genetics get cracked in the near future here, Heston. Peace out,
See you
everybody.
tomorrow.
Have a good evening, man.
Yeah,
Good night, man.
you will tomorrow.
Sounds good. Yeah, it's pretty cool though, man. Yeah, like I feel nervous about going there. Like I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's normal. I think it's a normal feeling.
You definitely have to grow a beard before you go.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah,
So.
I might be able to sneak it.
Yeah, actually, Spartan.
You'll be fine. Spartan will be fine.
Yeah, well, you just have to dress the part too, I guess. But how do you even get there if you wanted to? What do you have to go through India? Like, can you go take an airplane to Afghanistan if you want? I didn't.
Yeah, there's a guy on YouTube I think who's very famous for like commonly going to, I think it's Afghanistan, I want to say, and
You gotta go.
and yeah, like there are ways to get in there. It's true, it's possible, but I think
Go to a neighboring country and hang glide across the border. Fucking classic infiltration.
Yeah,
Or
I
just
just-
walk. Borders are imaginary some places.
I don't know if the risk is worth the reward.
you go to a sweet.
I just feel like you're risking your life
Gunsmith.
potentially. Yeah,
That's true.
That's for some genetics. I don't know. No, but actually, Marcus knows someone that just got back from there and went with some crazy tour through there and had an incredible time. So, but at the same time, 3 young daughters at home, I might have to pass on the first journey. Wait till they grow up. So yeah, that's quite the project though, Heston. That must be pretty excited. You got me really thinking about Romulan, and now like anytime I hear Northern Lights or Afghanistan, I start getting kind of interested, or it's piquing my interest because I know it piqued your interest when we were talking about this long last hash plant. There's a strain out here in the late 90s and early 2000s, and it was a biker hash plant strain, and no, they had it and it was the best. It was just this unique flavor, so beautiful, and I've been on a hunt for it since then. Last time I saw it was about 2003, was the very last time. And yeah, then I spoke to people that grew it from years ago that said, oh, it was like these guys are confirmed people that were growing it, and they swear by it was an Afghan crossed with Northern Lights. And in about 2006, there was a strain that popped up. They were calling it hash plant, and believe it or not, it actually had the unique hash plant nose. So it was clearly related. It caught my attention, but the only issue is when you smoked it, it was like didn't have the flavor, but it had this unique nose like it. And ever since then, I've never seen it again. And it's like so many people had it. Yeah. So when you say Romulan has something like that, I'd be just so curious if we could maybe get a hint of that smell, because I just can't get it from anything. Just this unique taste. I knew this guy in Salt Spring Island that if anybody was going to have it, it would be him still to this day, or he'd know someone because he had so many contacts that had it. And unfortunately, I haven't been able to track this guy down in like 17, 18 years. So
That's about the time frame. So it's like they're probably the same biker organization had it, and then from like the same seed pack, there was two versions of the Romulan, and Romulan Joe is the one that basically transported it all up and down the coast and up into BC. And then Jake, who operates Romulan Genetics now, his father had the sister to Romulan Joe's cutting, and it was slightly different, but that's the one that they have preserved now. And from that same seed stock was the male that they had selected, and he's had the male for like a little over 15 years from that same seed stock. So it's the brother to the Romulan female that they have, but they have the S1 seeds. He does offer S1 seeds of his Romulan, so that would probably be like as close as you could find to that in seed form anyway.
I'm not much of a seed popper, and I would try that in a second. I see someone says that G13 was supposed to be the bee's knees. Well, like right away when he says G13, I can remember, and takes me back to 1996 in my friend's house when we were smoking G13 hash plant. Like, it's kind of funny that he brought it up, but no, that's not the same as the hash plant I'm looking for. And that hash plant we're looking for is special. And within the last 10 years, I've had about 6 people say, I've got it, here's the cut, and I grow it out, and it's not even related.
No, really.
Not even close. But here's another thing is that there was a lot of there was Afghan strains that were killer. They were just called Afghan. There was no other name with it. And they were something that I always really liked. They were just killer. They had, and I haven't seen any of those strains in years either. I think they were actually almost like, well, you know how Marcus brought up Champagne, the strain called Champagne. It was definitely some that were related to that too. Yeah. What else we got?
Well,
Anything to touch on? Nope. Or any other
I want to
questions?
talk about the controller.
Oh,
I just took a dab in it, so I'm just trying to get breath back. Somebody a lot earlier had asked a question about their controller, and it's already scrolled so far past that I can't get it back anymore. So hopefully they're listening and they'll pop it back in there.
I might have it.
Oh,
Let me
cool.
see.
well,
It was a long time ago.
Ganja Mystic just said Master
Oh yeah.
Kush.
If adding a controller to the tent ultimate. Okay, so it says new grower here. If adding a controller to the tent ultimate light, will this allow you to adjust the different LEDs individually?
Unfortunately, we only at this point have one spectrum tuning light that's full, that can adapt to any spectrum, and that's the Borg. And we have a couple lights that have 2-channel lights where you can control the far red independently. So when we get into single channel lights, you can't isolate any other diodes. But with our controller, you could control up to 4 tents individually, and it also has a 3-hour sunrise sunset feature, so you could implement that and play with it that way. And the one thing that you also can do with the controller, that kind of puts it aside to other controllers, not only could you do a sunrise sunset, you could have different intensities throughout the day if you desired, like the sun, or like if you wanted to mimic shade, you could program it to dim down to a certain level, which I haven't seen other controllers that can do that. So that's one of the cool features that of our controller.
And they're asking what can it do for the 730 torch?
It's the same thing. It's that's a single channel light, so you could control up to 4 100 light rooms if they were 730 torch, and you could also implement the sunrise sunset, exact same thing.
And then back really quick to the Romulan. On the other chat, somebody said that they were told you can get that from the Federation Seed Company. So I thought I would throw that out there.
Federation Seed Company. I'm not sure what that is. I don't know. Is it a seed bank?
I will look up right now.
I haven't heard of it.
And
Federation Seed Company.
One thing before I go any further, there is someone that said the Master Kush was as good as the hash plant and the real Master Kush strain that you're talking about is one of my favorite strains. And if you ever went to Eden or Canna Clinic, they actually changed the name to MKU, and that was just them doing. So some people get that. If you go back far enough, you get that confused. But the MK strain is a beautiful strain that you guys had seen me grow a couple times. And unfortunately, when I got it back, I lost the strain for 4 years, and I got it back, and I grew it out. I was given 4 cuts, and I was told it was all this one cut. So I took a cut of all of them, and turns out one of the cuts was the real strain. One of the other cuts was a cross between it, and the other 2 cuts were this PK strain. So I eliminated the 2 PK strains, and unfortunately, the person I was working with got it mixed up, like forgot to mark it. So we had to grow it out again. So we grew it out one more time, and for whatever as soon as we discovered what it was, somehow the person swapped the clones in his hand. So I killed the real MK, and I sent the MK cross to 3 people across Canada to preserve for me. And then when they grew, I remember when Poops 420 grew it out the very first time, it was this MK cross that we also grew that did not like light. It was like an incredible yielder, but only grew small buds, and it couldn't take intense light, and it had the MK smell, but not the real flavor. So unfortunately, I lost the strain, and why it was so valuable, it had the highest THCV on record on any test ever that had ever been tested. And I still have somebody that's told me that the same person that got me that strain says they are going to get the cut back for me, but I've been waiting about a year, but they said it's coming. So I hope one day I could get it, but it's just, again, it's this incredible strain, like that hash plant that has this unique taste that just coats your mouth in just a beautiful way. I don't know how other way to describe it. The MKU strain is a beautiful strain, but it is not even related to the old school Master Kush that we're talking about. It's and what another cool thing about how you know it, when you have the MK strain, it doesn't ever get any type of purple. Like the MKU strain, that's a really good strain that like smoker farms and people grow, can get like a hint of purple that I've seen, but the real MK goes completely yellow. You know how some strains will just go yellow, some go purple, and that's one thing that's really distinct about it, that it just goes completely yellow. I missed that one.
Go Grow said, I hold the black tuna MKU cut. Have you ever heard of that?
I have actually. I actually have.
Nice.
Like, is this person's probably from BC that said that too, I'm assuming.
I don't know.
Pretty popular cut, or there's lots of tuna cuts. But yeah, the black tuna. I'm
I hope it
definitely.
doesn't smell or taste like tuna.
I've never related tuna, like there's some tuna strains, and I've never thought about the actual smell of tuna being related to it. It's kind of
I
funny.
wonder what gives it the tuna name then. Is
I'm
it
not
like
sure.
an area maybe, or a location maybe?
Well, this one fellow is the tuna farmer, but yeah, like
Okay,
I'm
that
just
makes
trying to
sense.
think of why. There's a few tuna guys. I'm just trying to think of why.
Maybe it's a symbolic name.
Yeah.
Usually I don't think of tuna being like in the same echelon as like an eagle, a falcon, a lion.
Oh, I
tuna.
saw a bald eagle in flight today, which was pretty cool. I'm down at my girlfriend Emily's house, and we're in Illinois. We're driving down the road, and we're driving parallel with the bird as it's flying in the sky. So I'm watching it, and it goes past this tree with another bald eagle in the tree waiting for it. I was like, oh, I've never seen that before. I've seen bald eagles before, but never catching 2 together. That was pretty cool.
You said catching 2. Sorry, I was just typing catching 2
Like the eagles were
2
They
bald
caught-
eagles, like a
Yeah.
pair.
Okay. What else? We got any other questions or anything else you guys want to cover or bring up?
I'm sure we had a whole, but I think we had a whole bunch of questions when you were like, "Oh, give us your IPM questions," and then we did anything but that.
Sorry. Well, is any that you or anything you wanted to talk about?
No, because half of the time the chat wasn't.
Yeah.
But we did go through a bunch of good ones. So I think
so.
we had some good conversations about that, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, I have a cool thing that we could share because we're talking about Bavaria. I was saying you could share a video from my YouTube channel where it's got Bouveria that's like coated and also like adhered like a whitefly to the leaf of this plant, and it's like trying to like struggle. It's a big crowd pleaser.
Okay.
Yeah. People like it.
Or you want to go to a, or are you gonna pull it up, Charlene?
I'm not sure how I would
Or no, we can pull it up. What is your channel?
Xanthanol.
Is it like
Yeah, yeah.
Xanth-
THANOL.
or YouTube?
Yeah.
Should come right up. Okay, and
Probably if you added Bouveria to that search, you would get it.
oh, how far back is it?
Oh, it's far back.
Well, why don't you type it because I don't know how to spell it.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
Shit, I
What
can
is it
barely
called
see-
again?
barely see
Bouveria.
it.
Bouveria.
Bouveria.
I always just call it BB, Bovaria bassiana. Bovaria bassiana. It sounds like a cool ass name though. Like it would be a nice D&D character for like an evil character. Bovaria bassiana.
Named after a person.
Yeah.
Top one. Okay, just hold on a second here. I gotta share my screen first. Or wait, are we already sharing our screen or not? No.
Azamax would be a
No,
good.
we're not seeing it. Azamax? That's not Bovaria bassiana, is it?
No, but that would be a good wizard name. You were
Oh yes.
Azamax.
That would be an awesome name.
Azamax the Destroyer.
Okay, it's probably gonna be really choppy for people. Everybody can see it though. It's not choppy for us, but next time we'll. Oh, wait a second. Yeah, I should have put this in OBS camera, and this wouldn't be.
Nobody better dare feel sorry for this whitefly.
And did you take this footage yourself, or you
I
found it?
did. No, I took this one.
Oh,
This
nice.
is on some Gerber daisies, and you can see the mycelium is the white stuff. And it's because the whitefly is kind of like the toad in the water, and you heat it up slightly and it doesn't notice. So the Bouveria that you spray on them, over time it grows on their body and eventually gets into their cuticle or penetrates their cuticle and then gets in their body, but also will like fuse their body to the leaf. And Bouveria can also be an endophyte. It can be inside plants and have beneficial effects on the plant host. So I don't know if we're seeing that here as well. But yeah. And whitefly like to cluster. A lot of insects, aphids, they also like to cluster, which makes it really easy for the fungus to just kind of go from one to the other to the other. Kind of gruesome, but very effective.
He's doing the stanky leg. He's doing the stanky leg.
Just breaking down.
Yeah, basically.
These are other legs, or no? That's
Oh, no, that's
mycelium.
that's the fungus. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, it's pretty much toast, huh? Just dying.
Yeah, pretty much.
And this was somewhere that you were consulting for, or you just happened to?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so you were just documenting it, or you had recommended it, and it was working.
Hmm.
Like, and how effective?
Really effective. I found it was really effective against whitefly. And
And what's oh sorry, what's the time frame? Was this over what period of time was this?
yeah, because there's jump cuts, right? But it's all in one sitting, I believe. So over the span of maybe. Oh, what you mean? How long did it take for the Bouveria to get to this point?
Yeah, exactly. So from first contact to like until it dies, like what sort of time frame is that?
Oh, well, I don't know exactly in this particular case, but I think it's multiple days. Not sure
Okay.
how. It's been so long.
Just gives them the dancing gene, man. They just freaking get down.
What kind of life cycle do they have as an adult, anyways?
So this is a silverleaf whitefly, and you got males and females. They'll mate, and then the females will lay eggs in kind of like a circle, actually. I think I have some footage somewhere else of some eggs that got micro-sized too. But basically, the eggs hatch. You get these little crawlers, which you can kind of see here. Okay, you can see this powdery thing to the south of the whitefly. That's a micro-sized body of an adult. So you can see kind of the mold, quote unquote, kind of like spores. Essentially, they aren't molds, but you know what I'm trying to say. The fruiting bodies, and then all these like gray or yellow like coin shaped things are the nymphs. So the nymphs are immobile, they can't move. They have a small form that can move, and then they find a place to just sit down and stay there until they eventually turn to an adult that hatches out of the body, and that's their life cycle. So that's a crawler. You can see in the bottom left.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So there are some eggs there, I think, that have become myco-sized. And then particularly in the background, this is like some necrotic spot on the plant that was already damaged by something else.
So they're not going to make it out of even the larva for the time.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, yeah. Well, that seems extremely effective, and this is just from a spoiler.
Exactly, yeah.
Wow. And like, just how many applications are just?
It's been so long, I don't remember
Oh,
for this.
But it would be kind of multiple. It's not going to be a one-time thing. They probably did it for a couple of weeks, or
I feel like for if you have this is one of those products where actually if you have a lot of them in one place, I think it's better. And if your humidity is really good.
okay.
And this was in a greenhouse.
Fair.
So I think that really, I think
Helped.
that it might have helped, yeah. But if you're an outdoor, or if it's like really dry, really hot, or a lot of direct sunlight, it might be more time, or you might have to apply more. That's true for a lot of microbial biocontrol. So here you can see a myco-sized body. So that's
Oh,
the
wow.
result.
Crazy.
Cool. Then it gives the next one that comes by dance fever until it's exhausted and dies. Wheeze in the Juice said you need to get some, you need to do some edits and put some glow sticks in their hands or in their little.
That'll go viral.
That's
Yeah.
terrible. That's
Good
terrible.
idea.
Yeah, it's sure nice. I definitely know if I'm buying any type of predator bugs, I sure like seeing them work in action and being
I
able to see
agree.
evidence of it. And I'm surprised that more people that sell them don't have just.
Me too, especially since so many people will say exactly what you said. And me, niche, interest that this is of mine, right? It goes beyond just professional, work. I find the natural world very interesting. Yeah, I feel like a lot of places don't. Like Copper has videos, for example, for a lot of them.
But when I complained about after buying them, after not seeing them do anything for a couple of days and like focusing on it, they sent me a white paper.
Really?
It's like, okay, well, that white paper is great, but like, why, if you're gonna write a white paper and you're documenting it and you're doing it for science, why wouldn't you in the 2000s have it on video too? Or let's say past 2010, or even past 2015. No excuses. Every single person has a phone. It costs a microscope camera costs $50.
Sometimes it's more money to have more supplementary stuff published if it's not necessary.
Oh,
Sometimes reviewers get weird about things too when it comes to the peer review process. But
like here's one thing that blows.
But I love seeing that stuff.
Yeah.
Like when I make videos and I cite research reports, I'll tell you the ones that I'm usually using, the ones with the kick-ass graphics and diagrams that like just show you something really easily and simply. And sometimes, and I love supplementary video too. I agree with you.
Yeah, it's like, why, if you're gonna make the claim, and like, why wouldn't you back it up with it, or at least demonstrate it?
Usually there's pictures at least, and there's pictures of whirligig mites out there eating.
Yeah, I believe it. It's just surprised that it's not something that I think would be a better practice to show people. Well, show that it's working. I know I definitely would. I'd love to be able to show it in action, be able to back it up, not have to send a white paper to somebody because you can't find a video of it. Like, yeah, it's kind of mind-blowing, but yeah, guys, what else? We got anything else?
Someone was asking if pH, like if you have high pH, low pH, would that be good for bug control? Like to control bugs?
I've heard of people taking super acidic water and treating it like they have those Kangen machines, and they'll be like a hydroponic store selling pH water that's 2.5. I don't know how effective. I've never done it personally. Have you seen?
I'm not sure how effective it would be, but I will say that there's like potassium bicarbonate products, and the way that those work is by changing the surface pH of the leaves, and that can be damaging to a lot of like powdery mildew and other fungi.
Wouldn't that be more of a positive? It'd be like more on the positive end of the pH scale, more of a basic with the potassium bicarbonate than this would be like the opposite of the acidic side.
Oh yeah, but it changed nonetheless. Yeah.
For sure. And I guess either side, either extreme is going to be probably way more harmful to a fungi than it is, say, for example, a bug.
Yeah, like for example, I remember looking at a research report where they were trying to see if like if you spray like blueberry bassiana fungus, will you like damage your predatory mites, for example? Like are they
Oh,
susceptible
that's a good
to?
question.
Yeah, right. And what they found was that I guess for like if I remember right, like for cucumbers and Swarovskinos, they they would like clean themselves more, a little bit more, so they would be out of action a little bit, but then they'd be fine afterwards, and there was a very low mortality. Um, so I guess they're not.
Oh, the
And
badasses. That's cool.
some places will even inoculate their predatory mice with the fungus and then let them crawl over the
Nice.
plants. And I think we might have talked about it on the Cheap Home Grow podcast of people using it to kill scale and mealy bugs, which don't like to move around, but then the mites vectored it.
That's
I
my
love that.
Nice.
I love that when you can get like nature to work for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge fan, as you well know, like of using, like just knowing how ecology works and how these organisms function, and kind of like maximizing their effect. And I think a lot of that just comes down to like knowing all these little small little details, which you might think, oh, like who cares or why is that so important? But if you're clever, you can use it to your advantage, I think more often than not, especially with all the cool things that are coming out nowadays that are um like the idea of like using different volatile organic compounds, whatever, to like maybe attract the predators or have like a repellent
Or a
effect.
wavelength of light, like you were saying earlier, like the
Yeah,
green.
yeah.
Dog is not gonna come in with you in here, but she's just won't. Stop it, Storm. Sorry. She's jumping up on the door. I know you guys can hear. She just will not leave us alone.
Oh, yeah, actually, I don't hear nothing.
Oh, you can't. Oh, I guess maybe it's not okay.
The camera might
She's
be
mad
on.
though. She's always a part of the live, so she's like, "What the heck?"
Yeah, she's like,
Well, she's not. My other dog trained her to be afraid of other people. So it's like it's very hard for anyone to meet her. So it's yeah, it's ridiculous. You guys can't hear her barking, no, or not?
No.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
That is impressive because it's cold all of a sudden. Hold on a sec. I'm gonna have to close that. The Canada winter has kicked in there.
Yeah,
huh?
exactly.
But
Yeah,
like that,
immediately the world changed.
oh, we were doing okay. I guess it's not cloudy. It was cloud like obviously through the winter. Anytime it's cloudy, we're warm. But the second there's no clouds, yeah, we dropped down to about just barely freezing. So yeah, but I've got the heat turned back on.
Yeah.
That it took about like 30 seconds, and all of a sudden we're like freezing in here.
My phone's like, you can expect 8 to 6 degrees Celsius in Vancouver tomorrow. I'm
Huh.
like, all right. Yeah.
From Southern California. Like what is that there now? Like
Oh, I mean, well, lately it's been getting colder, which is kind of nice. To have something that's a semblance of a season is kind of refreshing.
but definitely during the daytime, if it's sunny, it's warm.
It's pretty warm, but it's been cloudy lately, and we've been getting a little bit of rain, which is also kind of nice.
So like I guess that'd be kind of cool. You guys could just grow food crops just right through the year.
All the time, yeah, that's the big benefit. That is the big benefit. But also that means bugs all the time too, and things are getting warmer. So
Yeah. And what about
The
what about water? Is that like an issue in your area?
yeah, it is an issue. You're right.
Like I guess like having a spot in California where you've got some artesian well, where you got some awesome source, you are set for life because you can grow food all year and like that, and you don't run out of water.
That would be nice, but like
Pretty rare.
yeah, well, like the USDA recently put out a new map for like the different like environmental zones, and there's been a lot of like changes like across the continent.
Oh, where like areas that had lots of water don't have lots of water now.
Well,
That kind of
the
change.
weather's changed
Oh,
too,
yeah.
so like the demand changed.
Yeah, the actual zoning, like, if you
Really,
said,
yeah.
what zone are you in? Your zone could have changed by like half a zone for a lot of people.
Yeah, so you saw that too, huh?
Yep. Yeah, for sure. So we're getting a little bit warmer by a couple of degrees, what that means. Because that's all set by like the 10 years, the latest 10 years worth of data collected from from that area, that zone, from all the weather stations and everything like that. And that determines what your planting zone is for all the plants that you look up for. Like, okay, I'm going to plant this. What zone am I in? When do I plant? That's where that all comes from. Just us collecting data for the last 10 years, the last 10 years worth of data. So
I used to
every
live,
10 years or so, I think, or 5 years, 5 or 10 years, I can't remember.
I used to live in Chilliwack, and Chilliwack has some of the best water in the world, actually. It was actually ranked number 6 at one point for having the best water. And I lived on this mountain, and I had an artesian well where there was 3 of us that shared it. But I had we didn't even have a pump. We had like the well and a 2-inch line stuffed in the well, and it overfilled the thing and created a mini stream. And it was ice cold, like from a glacier in a mountain. And it 365 days of the year, and it was 30 ppm water, like the cleanest thing, no filter. It was
Wow,
like
that's awesome.
like it was that clean that you actually wouldn't have to use RO and ever. It was just, we lived there for like a couple years. It was so refreshing being able to drink that and just bottle that up
I was
anywhere
just
you
gonna say
go.
you could just sit there and bottle it and then
We did.
sell that.
Yeah, we always did. Like, it was literally a dream. Right now we have very good water, but at the same time it's not perfect. Like it can sometimes be like when you first turn it on, like you can get a little bit of a sulfuric smell, but as soon as you let it run for a while, like it's really nice. But it's not like the same. It's 70 ppm. It's not 30 ppm. You know,
Oh,
I know that's pretty clean for here.
Yeah, pretty clean for here too.
It took me only 7 attempts to find water, and we're to the point where I'm about to leave and give up. Well, I was actually telling Matthew, I lived across the street, and we drilled 3 wells. Like, I bought this area because every single home in the area, you could go down like 100 to 60 feet and have 100 gallons a minute. In every single home, there wasn't a home in the area. So I happened to buy this place where the water goes directly around it in the whole area. And I learned there's just no rules with water. So it goes right around it. So we drill in the 3 furthest points and can't hit anything. Then, so I abort this and I buy the place across the street and that also is next to it. Cause I'm thinking, so the very first one that we drill, we hit over 100 gallons a minute, but it's like sulfuric yellow water. And we had to go 318 feet down. It was on top of the bedrock, and it was just like this unlimited water, but sulfuric. And then we ended up doing 7 wells in total. Like, and this broke the bank because these wells are not cheap to dig. And on my very last one, in the very far corner of my property, like we're talking very far edge, we've hit 20 gallons a minute. And then after drilling it, we discovered that the guy, whoever put in the fencing, moved my property pin. So I drilled it 1.5 feet off my property.
Oh my goodness.
So I then had to, but it was close enough where we had to fill it, but it was the guy gave me a deal. It was a $12,000 mistake where it cost me, and I had to then fill it in and then drill another one into my property. And then once I found it, I started well witching and then realized that, yeah, well witching works. And I found another spot. So then I put in a second well. So we have 2 of them, but yeah, we went crazy search for water. It's crazy. Okay, guys, I'm done ranting there about water.
We giving away a light today?
I could rant on fucking water rights for a while too. It's bullshit. Water rights is such a fucking crooked goddamn deal in Oregon anyway.
I've heard about a lot. I remember seeing His and Her Growth. They're just like, you guys have a lot of crazy regulations that don't make any sense. Like for them, yeah, there was something about like for the water, they had an awesome water source on their property, but they weren't allowed to use it for some ridiculous reason. I can't remember. It was something ridiculous though. Like,
yeah, so on our property up in Tillamook County, we had this beautiful creek running right through the middle of the property, and we couldn't touch it because it fed into a salmon conservation stream. So it was like water directly feeding the salmon. They were trying to repopulate the native salmon species, and like technically we weren't even allowed to fucking physically touch it. So like we like camping and like staying out there and working the farm and stuff, you know, we had a camp set up, and like we weren't supposed to take water out of it, touch it, wash dishes with it, or, you know, anything. And we could drill a well, but because of the way the water rights were, we couldn't use the well for agricultural water at all. if we wanted to have any kind of other production, any kind of commercial business, we could use like 10,000 gallons a day for like a brewery or manufacturing or whatever. Just not like couldn't use a single fucking drop to water agricultural crops. And the only way that we were able to find a water use for the place was a spring. If a spring flowed above the ground and back below the ground on our property, that I could use it. And and I fucking crawled around 20 acres of mountainside and like staked off a few springs and developed them to get water use. But it was a crazy deal. Yeah, hang on a second.
That sounds like his and her grow. They have this awesome water source on their property, but weren't allowed to use it and had to like get tanks and have water delivered. It was ridiculous.
That's it. Wow.
That's a slap in the face to actually have to pay a tank to get filled and bring it to you.
I can't remember. I'm gonna have to ask him about that, but there was something along those lines. And I know it's Oregon, and I remember going, that is wild. Like I believe they even set up something for being able to capture water. I like it. You know, like
yeah, so you can only capture water that falls on the roof. So you can collect all the rainwater that falls on your roof, but you can't set up like open areas. And like I said, I dug a big like we'd had like a 1/4 acre pond that we stocked with largemouth bass that we irrigated from, but we piped the spring water into that pond. It was like the big collection basin. But there were even a bunch of rules on like berming and screened overflows and stuff. Because we had game fish in the pond because I wanted to stock and irrigate with fish water, and we had to have like all the screened overflow and stuff. So it was a wild being like in the agricultural zone, but also in like salmon conservation area, and also super crazy water rights because our neighbor was at like unlimited. He had a one of the big gasoline powered stinger pumps that you just back up a tractor to and drop the stinger into the creek. And he had unlimited water draw right next to us, and he was running like all GMO corn and like sprayed with glyphosate and like run off into the water, the salmon stream that they're supposedly protecting and have all these rights. But since he was grandfathered in, and they couldn't do anything about it. So it was like I couldn't use 200 gallons a day for an indoor grow, but he could have unlimited like draw from the creek and run off right back into it. It's crazy.
corruption at its finest, man. Like making
Definitely.
pretty wild. Well, I was telling Matthew today that we have all these strict policies for recycling here in British Columbia. It's insane. And there's these some people from some sort of news organization went undercover and put like some GPS and then discovered that they're burning like majority of the stuff in British Columbia is being burned. I just and it's just ridiculous. I couldn't believe it when I saw that. I have the story saved on my Facebook actually, because for anybody that doesn't believe it, it's true. And it's just like, it's just insane. Like we have all these crazy policies and then they're not even doing it and they're just burning it. And then they're still pretending like that's being recycled. Policy.
Like the energy conservation laws and stuff. And then in California in the hotel, you can't control the thermostat. It's like the eco setting. So the heater runs until it hits 72, then the air conditioner kicks on until it hits 70, and then the heater kicks back on until it hits 72. And it's just like it doesn't stop. It just constantly shifts from air conditioner to heater in the hotel. And we're like, how is this conserving energy? This is like the most insane.
It's an actual rule.
I mean, I think it's a rule, but like I encounter that a lot. But I feel like I've been able to use a thermostat before. Maybe I'm thinking of a different.
It was like we were only able to set the temperature, and then like I said, it would run until it got a little bit over the temperature, and then kick back in to adjust and go back down. It was constantly battling.
Yeah, it's pretty annoying. Or you could turn it off, which I usually do.
Yeah, but then it was too hot.
Yeah.
Don't you hate that when you can't get it right? You're either too cold. Bad problem to have, huh? First world problems.
Sure.
Well, guys, I don't got too much. Anything else you want to touch on? Anything?
I got an Aphid video coming out. I'm super excited about it. Spartan's been hearing about it for a year or so, and other people have too.
An Aphid video?
That's a lot of hype. That's a lot of hype.
Yeah, it's a lot of hype.
Nice.
Live up to it. But
Is it a documentary like you've made, or?
well, it's kind of like a deep dive into like I basically like I must have read at this point in total or just for this video like over 150 research reports about like how did aphids come to be, why are they so good at adapting to plants, evolutionary stuff, all this stuff, and I basically made like a big, video about them in totality. But also it's geared towards like, how do you use that as a way to defeat them, of course, right? So like,
And this is the outdoor aphid. This is the standard.
oh, there's all kinds of aphids.
Oh, so this
So
is
this
on
would be good for cannabis growers.
all aphids.
Yeah, basically.
Okay, the whole
basically.
aphid family.
Yeah, I won't go over every single species, but it's kind of meant to be like a general purpose. Like, here's our here are what they're like. Like, for example, they got microbes in their body that will help them like fend off predators, for example. Or in some of them, it changes their color, or it allows them to feed on the plants better, or something like that. And what are some of the biocontrols you can use and how to use them effectively? Like I found a research report that was looking at supplementing these things called hoverflies, and their larvae feed on aphids and they eat hundreds. They often look like caterpillars though, so people will kill them because of that, which is unfortunate. But anyways, what they looked at was they tested whether or not you got more larvae if you gave the hoverflies like sugar water, like or nectar of some kind or pollen. And they did way better. They killed the aphids way quicker. And so they also found that like when you use like certain parasitic wasps, if you give them nectar resources, then they last longer, like twice as long, and they kill more aphids and things like that. So there's ways that people can use this in their IPM strategy. So that kind of information.
And you've been working on this for like a year?
Well, I'm very busy.
Oh yeah,
So,
obviously.
and I want, and like a lot of my videos are not like super high production quality, but they are interesting, I think. But I wanted to be a little bit, a notch higher than I normally do. So I put a little extra effort into like put in sound effects and make the graphics a little bit more interesting. And there's tons of diagrams from research and stuff like that. So
Awesome. And when are you
Awesome.
releasing this? You don't know. Are you still
hopefully by the end of the year, which is
you just have you've got most of the work done. You still have some finishing touches.
yeah. At this point I actually only have like 2 small sections where I still have to put some things together, and then I'll be ready to go. I'm not gonna wait for like some opportune time. I'm probably gonna like get that done, look over it once, and just be done with it and publish it whenever that happens. If that's in 3 days or if that's in 12 days, it's gonna happen.
Nice. Know the feeling. Know the feeling of what it's like to be busy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's been insane lately. Yeah, well,
How far are we out on the gear, the Gmail gear, like that sweatshirt you're wearing?
Pretty soon. We've got 3. We've ordered it from 3 different places. So, did you guys see the? You should show, or can you share the picture that I've drawn a Spartan? We've got, so everybody on our team is gonna getting a cartoon picture of them, and Spartans was the first one. We wanted to test this person out to see how well they did. Do you have that picture on you? Got it on your phone. Just put it up on your phone and show it to the camera. That's ridiculous. It's so good. Like, I'm actually kind of excited because
Is
we're
it
gonna
like photorealistic or goofy?
No, it's realistic. That's why we're gonna have all of us on some sort of, or wait, can you put it right up to the?
Oh, okay.
That's pretty good, huh?
That's pretty good. Yeah.
So we're gonna have all of us, and we're making like a GML show hoodie. So we're gonna have like we have some stuff coming, but we're gonna be making some new stuff, and we're getting everybody. And I thought that was an incredible. Like, I can't wait to see myself and all of us. That's gonna look so
Yeah.
sick. He did
I
such
thought
a
it
good
was
job.
great.
It looks legitimately
I
like
agree
him.
with you,
It
yeah.
does for real.
Like, you know,
Oh,
we-
damn.
Like when you have a band together, you're gonna put
Nice.
this on your CD album.
Did you or you saw it, right? Or everybody could see it, or you could see it, Heston? Like
I just
how-
now saw it on my side. I didn't see it on the phone. I'm a few seconds
Oh.
lagged on my computer. I just saw it on
yeah.
YouTube on the computer. Yeah, that's fucking
Pretty
sick.
ridiculous,
Like
huh?
that. Yeah, that's cool. That's awesome. Yeah, that's cool.
We found this like website. I forget what it's called, and you literally can get someone to do anything.
Fiverr, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
It sounds about
Something
right.
like that, at least.
yeah, we've been looking for anything that can help like that, or anything AI that can help. Well, I think people need to take advantage. Yeah, look at that. That is, man, that's such a good job.
Yeah, it's true.
And to be, yeah, got to be talent. Well, I don't know how people do it because I've probably got grade 3 drawing skills.
Yeah, I was super impressed when you thought cartoon. I was thinking way less detailed than that. Like that looks fucking just like me to
Good proportions. Like that's like 90% of it. Not that I'm an expert or an artist, but like I feel like you got like there's a reason why like a lot of like drawing books and things focus on anatomy and like just like knowing how your body moves and that kind of stuff like really is important for that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's gonna be funny. I don't know what we're gonna do, but we're gonna definitely have all of us drawn up, and we're gonna make a couple GML show hoodies and t-shirts. Everyone's been waiting like 7 years. So hey, we're waiting for quality. I'm glad that we're sourcing this right from the source, because to buy this in Canada or USA, these sweaters would cost you over $100. So
insane.
Hey
yeah.
Matt, Jay is wanting to know if you're still going to Toronto this spring/summer.
Oh yeah, for the Pestapalooza. I think that was
Wait a
not
minute, Matthew. We need more enthusiasm from that. What is it? What is it called?
Pestapalooza?
The Pestapalooza.
Pestapalooza.
Yeah,
I've never heard of that.
That's with Jordan Irv with Growcast.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and we were going to go to a bunch of different places, but actually we had to shave that down for logistical reasons, unfortunately. But I believe the plan is currently that we'll be doing Virginia at some point next year. I don't know when. It might be in the middle of the year. So unfortunately, no. That was kind of sad, but things happened and it changed the game. But I had a lot of really good turnout at LA, at San Diego, and in New York. It was really great.
Nice. Is it just basically an event where everybody?
They come together. We talk about usually when I'm talking about this, I'm like in my room with the Pestapalooza thing that I could take and like show people on the camera. But basically, we give you a bunch of IPM information. A big part of it is like answering people's direct questions too. There's like a 2-hour learn and burn afterwards. It was basically kind of like a lecture on like basically how to create like an IPM plan and how to strategize and think in an IPM way. Not in like a really didactic way or dry way, but just like kind of generally. And then we also give them a bunch of resources, information, and also like seeds and some products that they can use to combat some pests and things like that. So
Nice.
the learn and burn's the best part though, for sure.
Get to interact with everybody. What kind of turnouts do you guys get? Like, are they pretty?
Yeah, it's like what was it like? Maybe an average of like 40, 45 people.
Cool.
I think Virginia is going to be the busiest though, and that was one of the reasons why we shortened it to Virginia specifically.
Nice.
Yeah, I was surprised too to find out that was likely to be the most active. But yeah, if you're in Virginia or if you can get there, that's probably where we're gonna have the Pestapalooza. And yeah, I'm excited for that.
Matthew, we got a question from chat for you. Sal wants to know what didactic means.
Didactic.
Yeah, didactic.
Didactic is like super as a teacher is like in a school. You know, like I'm the teacher, I'm lecturing to you about a thing. I'm just talking at you about a thing.
Like a presentation more than a conversation.
Yeah, it's very didactic. And I don't think that people learn the best that way. Some people do learn very well that way, don't get me wrong. And sometimes that's kind of how I want to take in information about some subjects, but generally it's a lot more interactive than that. And I like to get people's questions and ideas, and also I like to get an idea of what we have people who are like in the commercial space who come, and we have people who are just home growers, and so I'll modulate each one based on what I know the audience is going to be wanting to know about. And I think that's also really key too, because obviously the context does change.
What is that game show where you have to ask multiple questions and you can
20 questions?
and there's like an emergency where you can phone a friend or call a friend.
Oh, you mean
You know,
will we ask questions or is
that's a
or-
multiple. It's a
You
multiple.
mean
Be a millionaire? Who wants to be a
Yeah,
millionaire?
who wants to be a millionaire? Yeah, if I ever am on that show and I need a definition of a word, you're going to be my
That's
friend that
for
I
sure.
phone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely, you are going to be my one person I call when or if I'm
Or
in a
anything bug
situation-
related.
Yeah, or
yeah.
anything to do with an insect.
Oh yeah, you'll get that one for sure.
Or a lot of horticulture stuff too. He would also be a good one to call.
Absolutely.
I feel like it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And Matthew, you haven't even brought up your is it Patreon that you have?
Yeah, that's right.
Very, very, very reasonable rate.
Very reasonable rate of at least $1. That's all I ask. That's all I ask because and that's where you can be part of my Discord community mainly. If you don't have Discord, then I guess that's less helpful for you. But if you have if you go to the higher tier levels, you can also like be like, hey, I want this kind of a video, and I'll make a video of whatever you want. So that's available for other people. But generally, the greatest benefit is the Discord where people talk about their IPM woes. I was just talking to somebody actually, who was having some trouble with thrips and aphids and things like that. And you know, it's nice because sometimes I'm doing things, but then other people come in and they ask questions and they get those questions answered too. So if you want like an IPM like space in the back of your pocket for $1 a month, I feel like that's a pretty reasonable rate, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to get a better deal than that.
Yeah.
Maybe someone can put the link in chat. And it's Sync Angel.
Oh no, it's like the like my consulting Zenthal. So it's
Zenthal.
patreon.com/Zenthal. Yeah, and if you're interested in that, and if you're interested in the videos too, like it would definitely be fun because people have really good questions, honestly, and like it's also helpful for me because it makes sure that I keep up to date. I always go back and be like, okay, well, this is what I know about the topic, but is there new information that we can add to it? And so I'm always loving excuses to go around and do that. Like the Aphid video I was just talking about, you know, part of it is somewhat a vanity project for me to just be like, hey, I want to all this you know, deep arcana about about insects and stuff. And it's beneficial for people too. So because it's hard to digest all that information.
Do you have any video of burning any insects in fire and seeing how that works?
No, I think the science is out on that one. I think it's been,
What?
I think it's been settled.
Not in my garden. That's the number one go-to that I know works. That's the nuke. Fire.
What about the vacuum tech?
That's a
Vacuum is a good removal, but it doesn't kill.
Well,
Fire will kill.
you know what we how we used to keep spider mites back in the day at bay. Let's go back 20 years ago, and spider mites back then were a problem, and sometimes they would come and they would web up the whole thing, and we would just have a shop vac, and as long as we stayed on top of actually shop vacuuming the actual web every single day, it's kind of funny because we could actually shop vac a plant and have them come back and rebuild the webs overnight.
really fast. Wow.
Well, yeah, I remember it. But these are ones with tens or millions of spider mites.
Yeah, exactly.
Too. So like, we're just going through plants and taking the webs. I'd almost consider them almost like breeding factories for spider mites at some point of some of the ones
There's
that
some
I've
people
seen.
who could use that kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, that's actually believe it or not, that's a real thing that people do in some fields. They'll use like giant vacuums to vacuum up bugs.
Suck up just
in some crops, yeah. Because it's just so there's so many of them.
Well, you would think that it would could be somewhat slow them down if you're every single day, like any type of bug just hitting them in any ones that you see you're vacuuming. It's definitely going to really screw up their numbers. Like I used to always tell people, if you could take the infected leaves out if you can, because that's what's making it so much worse, right?
That's true. Like, you know, that's a good multi-domain approach. Like get some of the heaviest, you know, damaged material out. That's often very helpful, right? And then like you come back with a knockdown and then maybe some beneficials or something like that. And yeah. You should always be looking about layers with IPM. You know, like an onion. Absolutely.
Like as many defenses as you can possibly have as they ultimate solution, I guess.
Yeah, that's what I look at, like war. Like, yeah, I got different troops. I need ranged, I need up
Yeah,
close
that's right.
melee.
What's the meta?
Exactly. I want to hit them from different angles.
I used that term recently at a client's grow, and one of the staff was like, "Did you just say meta?" And I said, "Yeah." So they're like, "That's cool."
I got actually a hypothetical question, or maybe for you and the chat. What do you guys think are the most two common or the biggest two issues in cannabis for pests? Like I want to lean towards and say thrips and spider mites myself.
But what do you mean by biggest? Like most common or
most common,
worse?
the
Or like most
the
damaging?
most common damaging issue that, or like the most common problem that people are having. I guess it could also be from state to state, or depending on where you are and what your climate is. Because yeah, like it's people that are back east Canada right now where it's negative
Right.
40. They don't have too many issues.
I'm gonna say,
Yeah.
I'm gonna represent Michigan. I'm gonna say most common in commercial grow is gonna be thrips and fungus gnats.
I think that for common, I think that's a pretty good selection. I think it's a pretty good selection, especially during certain parts of the year, like summer.
Yeah, absolutely.
One part I also, when we were when you just said fungus gnats, it triggered me thinking about when I was talking about that sand method. And one of the things that I would also do is I was also trying to, during the daytime, flying or spraying to get ones that were flying
Mhm.
to also take the adult population, but I could almost take them out within a couple of days because I do such a thorough spray. Sorry, I just thought I'd touch on that.
Oh, yeah,
That's
no.
one thing that I forgot to bring up, that I wasn't just using sand and
Oh, yeah.
and not just spraying anything, but I was using essential oils, like something like Lost Coast Plant Therapy will take out fungus gnats on contact if you can
Oh,
make
yeah.
if you can make them.
They're so dainty. Like if you hit them, like it's almost like even just the physical
hit of the water while they're flying.
like, and then also like the substance itself kind of like is like very viscous. So like for us, it would be like trying to swim through like a vat of honey or something. Like you can't get any traction. You're not getting out of that globule.
That makes sense. Well, and I think, well, we were looking at trichomes earlier, and you're saying even these are a good defense for some things, right?
Yeah, like on the pedestal of the leaf, there's just so many of them. Like, and we talked about this too on the cheap home grow. Like, these are like a bunch of like small sublethal effects that mount up to be a problem for a plant. Like, if you're making the environment hostile, if you're spraying, if you're using biocontrols, and also if your plant's like super, tomentous and trichomous, and you've got all these hairs everywhere, like this, it's like a forest, and they have to navigate this forest, and then there's like, the trichomes that are glandular, some aren't, right? Like aphids, they have a hard time, the small ones especially, like the nymphs, their mouthpiece, their beak is very small. And if the trichome is like sticking up, it's like a security wire or something. Like it keeps their head from like touching the skin, and they can die, or they have to like move more and expend
Oh.
more energy. So like more trichomes is better in a lot of ways. So I'd like to see more of that on the
Yeah,
plant.
well, I like that. More trichomes is better.
Right?
We'll just go
Just
in
yeah,
every
just generally,
aspect.
yeah.
Yeah. It's true.
Though to be fair, some pests they will not care at all. Like they will just chomp on some trichomes, like budworms, right? They'll just tunnel right through.
I haven't had to deal with them.
I'm so glad.
If you think about it, that's really what we're farming. We're not really farming the bud. We're not farming the plant. We're just farming the trichomes and the oils. That's what we're looking for.
That's true.
Well,
The fruit, the micron fruit, right?
Marcus has me sold on 6-star just because it's just so clean, and it's just like not having any other plant material. So yeah, I'm really excited about attempting to make some and having it good enough and clean enough to burn. But yeah, I'm
Oh
sold
my
on it.
God. I hope they hurry up with my passport. I need to come up there and get some of that.
Speaking of that, we're going to be tomorrow doing a stream with Bubble Man at his place. And we're going to
Awesome.
We're heading to Vancouver tomorrow too, so that's going to be fun. So stay tuned. Gonna try out some 6-star. Or you're gonna have to.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to.
Well, guys,
I'm so jealous.
well, hey, if you would have gotten your passport done sooner, you would have been here too.
I know, man. I know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's. I'm ready to go into shout outs, so I'm gonna throw it at Heston.
Hey, shout out, Matt. Thanks for coming on. That was a wealth of knowledge. Always a pleasure to read anything you post or publish. It's great to chat with you. And thanks, GML, for putting the show on. And one more shout out, Daz Night Owl. Just got your package in the mail today. Excited to bust that open and see what kind of goodies you got in there. Going to run some autos. Again, I've been away from that for a few months, so excited to get some autos back in the dirt.
Spartan.
Hey, shout out to everybody on the panel. Shout out to Bubble Man, who's not here right now. It was cool hanging with you, man, as always. Shout out to Charlene, man, crushing it, seeing you getting those links in chat and everything. Before I could even think to pull them up, you've already got them in chat, so that's impressive. Good job. And shout out to Heston and GML and my buddy Matthew, man. It's always cool hanging out and talking with you. And yeah, just everybody have a great day and keep growing.
Awesome. Charlene.
I would like to shout out Matthew for being on tonight. So much information every single week that we're getting. It's just, I love it. Shout out to GML for having the show and always having all these great guests on. Shout out to the panelists, Bubbleman, Emily. Shout out to Eric at home, and shout out to everybody's dogs with them too tonight. How about that?
Well, I'm going to pass it over to our guest, Matthew.
Well, thanks. I really appreciate being on. Shout out to the chat with the good questions. And I'm sorry if we didn't get to all the IPM questions and that sort of thing. But you could always contact me if you need any help. Zentinel.com for professional inquiries, Zentinel, the YouTube channel for information, and Zentinel Patreon if you want to contact my Discord community. And I look forward to all of our mutual success. Thank you.
Well, again, thanks for coming on, and thanks for visiting me on Vancouver Island. I'm kind of looking forward for tomorrow's dinner, man. Kobe's is the shit.
Oh,
Somewhere, I don't know where we're going 100%, but we're going somewhere. And I'm craving some food, and I have to admit, downtown's got better food than the island when you're going for dinner. So, no, I'm really excited. Thank you for coming on, and just everybody, our whole team, Marcus, Heston, Russ, Charlene. It's just awesome. We're really doing some awesome stuff right now, and we're working on some really cool stuff behind the scenes. Actually, today we released the Tarantula Tent Ultimate 4x4, which is the world's greatest uniformity they've ever seen by far. What's kind of insane is when you look at the grid on the map, the middle is within 50 to the very corner, PPFD, which is never, it's never even been close. Normally there's about like a 600 600 to 800 PPFD difference. So to be able to be within 50, it's really changing the game, and it's really going to allow people in a 4x4 tent hit the absolute maximum that you can possibly do. And
we've an even spread. It's going to be so good in there.
And yeah, like we've been working on some really cool stuff. On December 23rd is going to be a really big show for us. But if you're interested in any lights, hit up anyone on the panel, and they'll get you hooked up. Or you could, if you're interested in, what the heck was I just about to say? Just going completely blank. Anyways, guys, well, I think that's pretty much it. And well, tomorrow we're going to be doing a stream, and next week. Oh no, I remember what I was going to say is, yeah, I had a crazy idea, and next year we're going to be releasing some really cool stuff. Yeah, I forgot to tell that story. I went 4 days without edibles, and I took edibles, and it knocked me out. I got so high as a kite, and it knocked me out. And then I woke up at 2:30 in the morning with the craziest idea, and I'm going to turn it to reality. So anyways, guys, stay tuned because that's coming soon.
And do you have a time on the stream tomorrow?
No, but I would imagine it's going to be mid-afternoon.
Okay.
So, Vancouver traffic. No, you don't know it. I was trying to tell him about it yesterday.
It's a horror story.
Yeah, it's like, man, it seemed to not matter what ferry that I would ever take for whatever reason, even if I'm taking one where I shouldn't have any type of traffic. It's like I hit the day where something happened, and it takes me where it's supposed to take me half an hour to get into downtown Vancouver. It takes me 2.5 hours. So I'm just hoping it's not one of those days, man, because you just never know with Vancouver traffic. But It is what it is. So we'll see everybody next week. I'm hoping to get Lifecycle Botanics back on here, and we can really dive into HLVD and just everything, all the awesome stuff they have going on. By the way, one of the coolest things they have going on, guys, they will pheno hunt for you. Where like, so you want to do 100 plant pheno hunt, they can do that. You can come there and select it and get it going and really get those genetics that you want. And they're just off, they're offering some really next level stuff. Okay, guys, we'll see you next week.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers. Are you able to end it on both YouTubes now, Charlene, or not? You're muted. I can't hear you.
So we're not ended on our channel. So here's why.